the strongest lottery system in Pokémon. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51. Battle breaks out in the city center. Luo Yuan did not walk far after leaving the Hulan gym. He found a bench in the park and sat down, then communicated with the system in his mind. System, let's start the lottery. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the special ability, telekinesis, and the lottery telekinesis. After Luo Yuan heard that he had drawn telekinesis, his eyebrows raised, obviously a little surprised. He did not expect that his luck would burst out once. Before, he had drawn props, Pokémon, and Pokémon knowledge in the lottery, but he did not expect that he would draw telekinesis this time. Telekinesis, this must be known to anyone who has seen Pokémon. Telekinesis is also called superpower. It is a special power that can be mastered by humans in the Pokémon world. In the Pokémon world, there are not many special abilities that can be mastered by humans. In addition to telekinesis, there are only a few such as wave power and evergreen power. Among them, even the easiest to master telekinesis requires people with telekinesis talent to spend a year or even several years to barely get started, and all they can do is barely bend a spoon. So Luo Yuan felt that his luck burst out. It's a good deal. Luo Yuan was very satisfied with the draw. It seemed that he was not so useless. I just don't know how it compares with Nancy from the Golden Gym. When talking about telekinesis, we have to mention Nancy, the gym trainer of the Golden Gym. Among all the gym trainers that Xiaozi challenged in Kanto in his previous life, Nancy from the Golden Gym left the deepest impression on Luo Yuan. The ability to teleport and shrink people or even turn them into rag dolls all show the horror of superpowers. So, in order to test how strong the superpower he had just obtained was, Luo Yuan stretched out his arm with anticipation according to the superpower control method given by the system. He cast his eyes on a Pidgeot standing on a branch in the distance, combing his feathers in the sun, and then a thought came to his mind. Swish, a blue telekinetic light suddenly lit up around Pidgeot's body, and Pidgeot floated into the air. In shock, Pidgeot frantically flapped his wings and struggled, but his body, which should have been flying, did not move at all. Is this a superpower? It looks quite powerful. Luo Yuan could feel Bobo's struggle through telekinesis, but he didn't feel any difficulty. Roughly speaking, he could control a Pidgeot with his telekinesis alone. Then teleportation, it was still the poor Bobo. Luo Yuan controlled his telekinesis and snapped his fingers. Pop, who was originally more than 10 meters away, landed in front of Luo Yuan in the blink of an eye. He looked safe and sound, but the shock and panic in his eyes could not be concealed. Bobo had no idea what happened. How did it suddenly run from the tree to the side of the road? No limbs were missing. It seems to be successful. Luo Yuan rubbed his slightly sore temple. It's just that the consumption is a bit large, but it can be tolerated. It should be able to barely teleport a person within a 10-meter range. If it is farther or there are more targets, it will be powerless. Luo Yuan withdrew his telekinesis, and the frightened Bobo flapped his wings and quickly flew into the sky and disappeared. Luo Yuan was basically very satisfied with the effect of telekinesis. Although he was not as strong as Nancy, the trainer of the Golden Gym, Luo Yuan himself did not want to compete with someone as gifted as Nancy. He only knew that his current superpower level was at least higher than 90% of superpowers, and that was enough. Let's go. The next stop is Vermilion City. Luo Yuan stood up and was about to set off, but suddenly a huge explosion occurred in the distance. What happened? Luo Yuan immediately stood up and looked in the direction of the loud noise in the distance. There was thick smoke, and it seemed that there was a faint fire. Something seems to be wrong. Junchulan hid behind the bunker and felt terrible. It should be a happy day today. Thanks to a group of trainers, she joined forces with Junsha in Nabi City to capture a trainer of Team Rocket who was well known in Team Rocket, and also found a spy of Team Rocket lurking in the Alliance. Because Nabi City needed to organize people to eliminate Team Rocket lurking in the city, the task of escorting the prisoners fell on them in Cerulean City. Originally, she thought that, as long as she handed the prisoner over to the Pokémon prosecutor from the Quartz Plateau, she would be able to take this opportunity to get a bonus and a wonderful vacation. But she didn't expect that the prisoner handover, which should have been foolproof, would go wrong. A large number of rocket teams suddenly appeared in the center of Cerulean City, catching her and the prosecutor who came to take over the prisoner off guard. Damn it, why did the rocket team appear here? Jun Shalan stared at the rocket team with a bad face. So many rocket teams appeared in the center of Cerulean City, but she didn't notice anything. She had to take the main responsibility. I can only try to make up for the mistake. Thinking of this, she waved to the wind speed dog beside her. Wind speed dog, spray flames. The wind speed dog beside her rushed out of the bunker and spit out a stream of hot flames at an Abba monster crawling in front of him. Chabba. The Abba monster screamed, and the smell of barbecue wafted from its charred body. The wind speed dog succeeded in one attack, and Jun Shalan didn't have time to be happy when she heard two loud noises from the opposite side. Whoosh. When Team Rocket saw Abba being killed by Windy, they didn't say a word and fired to capture bullets at Windy. Not good. Jun Shalan's face tightened. It's Team Rocket's capture bullet. There was no time to command Windy to dodge. The capture bullet exploded in the air, turning into a large net that tightly covered Windy and some police officers Pidgeot, making them unable to move. Then the two Abbas crossed and spit 2 mouthfuls of dissolving liquid at the Pokémon covered Windy. Fortunately, Windy had undergone a lot of training and was not panicked when being covered by the net. It opened its mouth and sprayed a jet of flame at the dissolving liquid in the sky. The dissolving liquid evaporated in the air and turned into a ball of acid mist, corroding Windy's beautiful fur into spots. Windy broke free from the capture net and hid in the bunker, not daring to show its head. There was no time to feel sorry for Windy. Jun Shalan turned her head and looked at the prosecutor who was fighting fiercely with a group of Team Rocket and could only barely hold on. The situation was very critical. Asking for help is a solution, but it is not feasible in Cerulean City, as all the police officers in Cerulean City are already here. The Cerulean gym trainers who were supposed to help them protect Cerulean City have no fighting power at all, and even if they come, they will only cause trouble. If they ask for help from Nibe City, it will be too late. What should I do? Should we let these Team Rockets kidnap the criminals? Just as Junsha was anxious, a figure suddenly appeared beside her and patted her shoulder. Miss Junsha, what happened here? She was startled and turned her head, only to see a young man with black hair and a backpack who appeared beside her at some point. Chapter 52, Team Rocket Kaz. Who are you? Jun Shalan was startled by Luo Yuan's sudden appearance. Luo Yuan looked at Junsha, who was as frightened as a frightened rabbit, and was a little speechless. Is it really that serious? He is not a monster. After a brief panic, Junsha realized that she had overreacted a little. After all, Luo Yuan did not look like a member of Team Rocket. She looked at Luo Yuan with a slightly apologetic look. Sorry, nothing. Now is not the time to talk about this. What happened? Why did Team Rocket run to the city center? Luo Yuan pointed at Team Rocket not far away. He had already seen that the people who were fighting Team Rocket were the prosecutors of the Kanto Alliance. Junsha looked at the Pokeball hanging on Luo Yuan's waist and confirmed Luo Yuan's identity as a trainer. With the idea of getting a helper, she said, it's like this. In short words, Junsha told Luo Yuan about her escorting the prisoner and the sudden attack by Team Rocket. Luo Yuan felt a little speechless. I thought I had captured the rockets, and it was a sure thing, but I didn't expect that this would happen. Seeing Luo Yuan's silence, Junsha felt ashamed. Because in the whole incident, she and the entire Hulan City Police Department were too incompetent. Just when Junsha thought that the trainer in front of her would choose to leave because of the danger, she saw Luo Yuan patting the dust on his body and standing up. Leave it to me. Wait a minute. Junsha was anxious. Her wind speed dog had just proved with itself what would happen if he rushed out of the bunker at this time. Seeing Luo Yuan standing up without any protection, she immediately shouted anxiously, be careful. The Rockets, who had been watching from a distance, saw Luo Yuan standing up in a swagger and immediately sneered, and an Abra monster broke away from the battle group. The tense purple body curled up and bounced and the Abra monster's body was ejected like a spring and pounced on Luo Yuan. Seeing that the two sharp fangs of the Abra monster were about to fall on Luo Yuan's body, but Luo Yuan's eyes flashed with a blue light. The Arbor, who was ready to come, was nailed in the air, like a sculpture, unable to move. Is this telekinesis? The rocket team on the opposite side still had some knowledge. When they saw Arbor suddenly being fixed in the air, they immediately understood what was going on. But he was not panicked at all, but very arrogant. Boy, if you don't want to die, get out of here quickly. Don't hinder our rocket team. This is the rocket team's usual routine. Whenever they encounter a trainer who hinders them during an action, they directly report the name to deter them. Because they are afraid of getting into trouble, or because they can't beat the rocket team, many trainers will choose to retreat because of fear of the rocket team's revenge. But who is Luo Yuan? Will he be afraid? Luo Yuan smiled and said, "Do you know what happened to the last rocket team member who said that to me?" Without waiting for the rocket team member to speak, Luo Yuan pointed to the escort vehicle that was guarded by many prosecutors and said, "They are all in there." The commander of the rocket team heard Luo Yuan's words. He thought he was just an ordinary trainer who was talking nonsense, but after taking a closer look at Luo Yuan, his face changed. "Damn it, it's Luo Yuan. Everyone be on guard." Luo Yuan. Hearing this name, the rocket team members in the back were shocked. This name may not be familiar to ordinary trainers or rocket team members, but for them as the executors of this prison break, this name can be said to be thunderous. Because the intelligence mentioned that it was this Luo Yuan who brought a group of useless trainers to capture the cadres of their rocket team, as well as more than a dozen elite members. They thought Luo Yuan had left, but they didn't expect that he was still in Cerulean City and ran into them. "Oh, you recognized me? Am I already so famous in Team Rocket?" Seeing that these Team Rocket recognized him, Luo Yuan guessed that he must have been remembered by Sakaki. Being remembered by Sakaki means that Sakaki may personally deal with him in the future, but that possibility is very small. Looking at the fearful eyes of these Team Rockets in front of him, Luo Yuan's mouth corners slightly raised. It feels good to be feared by Team Rocket. It's almost there, and we can rescue Scar. As the commander of this operation and a middle-level cadre of Team Rocket, Kaz gritted his teeth and fell into a dilemma. Should he continue to fight and execute the order issued by Boss Sakaki before, or retreat now? Reason told him that he should retreat now, but he was very unwilling to retreat under such circumstances when he could rescue Scar and the credit was within his reach. "Captain." The men were waiting for Kaz's instructions, but Luo Yuan didn't intend to give him time to think. "Steal. Block their way. Leaf Elf. Use magic leaves." A huge Steelix that almost occupied half of the street appeared on the street. The protruding spikes at the joints completely opened up the asphalt ground as the Steelix's body moved forward. It destroyed everything along the way. When the Steelix's body blocked the rocket team's way, the whole street was in a more serious state than the damage caused by the rocket team before. Luo Yuan. Juncture. Sure enough, the Alliance's prohibition on releasing large Pokémon in the city made sense. But now is obviously not the time to worry about these things. The most urgent task is to get rid of this group of reckless rocket team. Leaf Elf swung its body, and a large piece of magic leaves hit the rocket team like a storm. When Steelix appeared before, the rocket team didn't have time to respond, but at this time they had already reacted. Charmer, Flame Vortex, Gulpbit, Fierce Storm. The fire took advantage of the wind and burned more and more fiercely. Whoosh. The heat wave was overwhelming, and the magic leaf was roasted yellow by the hot air before it could get close, and then turned into ashes in the flames. Chapter 53 Destroying the Deathlight. It's really a bit of a stretch to use Leaf Elf to fight Team Rocket. This situation was within Luo Yuan's expectations. Although Leaf Elf is the strongest Pokémon in his hands besides Metagross and Onix, he has trained Leaf Elf for too short a time. Neither the level nor the skills have kept up. Of course, as long as he is given time, Leaf Elf will definitely become stronger. After all, it has only been less than half a month since Luo Yuan got Leaf Elf. So from the beginning, Luo Yuan did not put his hope on Leaf Elf. Leaf Elf, come back. Metagross will use the destruction ray. Luo Yuan shouted at Metagross. Metagross is his main force against Team Rocket. When Kaz saw Metagross for the first time, his pupils shrank, and a dazzling light flashed. "Oh no, it's the destruction ray, get out of the way." After saying that, he immediately commanded his Pokémon, Metal Tyrannosaurus, "Hold on." Then he flashed, and hid behind Metagross. His figure had just disappeared behind Metagross, and Metagross, which had been ready for a long time, released a destruction ray without mercy. The sky suddenly darkened. It seemed as if the whole world was left with only that one ray of destruction. The violent energy tore through the air, tearing apart the flame vortex across the street with an unstoppable momentum. Boom. The moment the flame vortex collided with the destruction ray, it burst like a bubble. The big mouth bat and duck-billed fire dragon behind the flame vortex were blown away by the aftermath of the explosion of the destruction ray, and their bodies were charred and lost their ability to fight. The armored Tyrannosaurus crossed his arms in front of him to resist the impact of the destruction ray. The hot energy burned the armored Tyrannosaurus arms red. The two legs that were firmly on the ground were pushed back by the huge impact of the destruction ray. The energy that had not been volatilized in time accumulated in the arms of the armored Tyrannosaurus. Finally, the energy gathered reached a critical point and exploded. The loud noise and shock wave of the explosion shattered countless glass on both sides of the street, causing ordinary citizens hiding in the house to scream. All the rockets who didn't have time to find shelter were blown away by the shock wave of the explosion, and their injuries varied. Even the Alliance prosecutors on the other side of the street were affected. Fortunately, they didn't suffer much because they didn't bear the impact directly. When the smoke cleared, Junsha poked her head out from behind the shelter and looked at the scene on the street. The whole street was now in ruins, like a ruin after a war. The only person standing on the street was Luo Yuan. 30 meters away from him, there was an armored Tyrannosaurus that had lost its ability to fight and fell backwards to the ground. Gurgle. The prosecutors, who were covered in dust by the explosion, looked at each other in shock. It's no wonder they looked so inexperienced. It was just that Luo Yuan's strength was too terrifying. Especially before they came to escort the prisoners. They knew Luo Yuan, who had captured these rockets, and knew why he quit his job as an intern prosecutor. This strength is not much worse than the champions of previous courts conferences. No, I think Luo Yuan is even stronger. Such a strong strength will be punished for mistakes. There must be a conspiracy. Some prosecutors have begun to imagine the little drama of excellent prosecutors being framed and forced to resign. To them, it is completely unreasonable for such an excellent Pokémon trainer to resign from the position of Pokémon prosecutor because of punishment. So there must be a conspiracy. Luo Yuan didn't care what they were thinking. He looked at the corner of the street with a calm look. "Come out. I don't believe that a Rocket Team Carder can be killed by me in one move. Who can become a Rocket Team Carder is not a veteran." Although he is very confident in the strength of Metagross, Luo Yuan has not yet expanded to think that he can kill a Rocket Team middle level Carder with one move. Luo Yuan, you are more powerful than described in the intelligence. Kaz stood up from the shadow of the fallen body of the Tyrannosaurus Rex and looked at Luo Yuan. There was 3 parts of vigilance, 3 parts of fear, 3 parts of caution, and a lingering fear in his eyes. "Intelligence? Your rocket team also specially collected my intelligence? I feel very honored." Luo Yuan smiled slightly, looking nonchalant. But he secretly raised his vigilance in his heart. The rocket team has specially collected his intelligence and established his data files. It seems that the rocket team or Sakaki attaches great importance to him. This is not good news. Kaz saw that Luo Yuan's face did not change and sneered in his heart. In his opinion, Luo Yuan is the kind of guy who does not understand the rocket team and the terrible boss Sakaki at all. The rocket team has encountered many such people in previous years, but without exception, they all fell under the hands of boss Sakaki and many senior cadres. Thinking this in his heart, Kaz glanced around and said, "It seems that our rocket team is in trouble today. Next time, you will definitely not be so lucky. Rocket team, retreat." But just as he finished speaking, a strong wind blew from behind. He turned his head subconsciously and saw a thick metal tail sweeping over. Chapter 54 Aishida's Invitation. The last moment of Kaz's consciousness was when the metal tail swept over. Luo Yuan looked at Kaz, who was knocked unconscious by Steelix's tail, and smacked his lips twice. Did he really think that he was just talking so much nonsense because he was bored. That was just a deliberate show to attract the attention of Kaz and his men. During the conversation, Luo Yuan had already secretly signaled Steelix. Then Steelix took advantage of the moment when Kaz and Team Rocket were most relaxed and cleared the field with a single blow of its iron tail. Killed them all in one go? Are these guys really the Team Rocket who had suppressed us before? Why do they feel so weak in Luo Yuan's hands? The prosecutors of the Alliance who had witnessed Luo Yuan's quick kill of Team Rocket were numb with shock. Luo Yuan took back the Metagross beside him and asked Steelix to block Team Rocket's retreat. Then he said to the prosecutors who were standing there stupidly, "Don't just stand there. Hurry up and catch these Team Rockets." The prosecutors only reacted when they heard Luo Yuan calling them. Okay. Faced with a group of Team Rockets who had fallen to the ground and lost their ability to fight, these prosecutors showed excellent professionalism and quickly and orderly handcuffed the Team Rocket trainers. Luo Yuan did not pay attention to these Team Rockets. He turned his head and looked at Junsha, who came out from behind the bunker with admiration in his eyes, pointing at the streets that were destroyed in a mess. "Ms. Junsha, I don't have to pay for the destruction of these streets." Hearing Luo Yuan's question, Junsha, who thought Luo Yuan was going to ask an important question, chuckled. But then she realized that she was very rude and coughed awkwardly twice. Ahem. "No, Mr. Luo Yuan is a brave man. Of course I won't ask you to pay. Although according to regulations, all losses caused by the use of large Pokémon in the city need to be compensated by the Pokémon trainers and bear the corresponding responsibilities. But one thing is one thing, Luo Yuan's current behavior is a brave man. If Luo Yuan has to pay for this kind of situation, how can there be trainers willing to help deal with Team Rocket in the future? I don't have to pay, then I'm relieved. It's impossible to pay, and it's impossible to pay in this life." Luo Yuan's tone and his expression made Junsha laugh. Hanging the Steelix Pokeball on his waist, the Pokémon prosecutors over there also finished dealing with the Rocket prisoners and detained these newly captured Rocket prisoners together with Scar's group in the escort vehicle. A square-faced prosecutor who looked righteous walked up to Luo Yuan and said, "Hello, I'm Ishida, the commander in charge of this escort operation. I really appreciate your help this time." Luo Yuan smiled and said, "It's nothing. I used to be a Pokémon prosecutor. Seeing this situation, I can't just stand by and watch. And these Rockets are going to rescue the people I captured. If I let them rescue the people, wouldn't it be a slap in my face? So don't take it to heart." Ishida shook his head. "You are too modest." Although he said so, he was able to rush up to help the first time he saw so many Rockets, which itself represents a very excellent quality. And this situation is based on the premise that Luo Yuan left the Pokémon prosecutor team for some unknown reason. What kind of spirit is this? This is the spirit of humanitarianism. Although he didn't know Luo Yuan very well, just from this incident, he could see that Luo Yuan had excellent qualities that many trainers and even many Pokémon prosecutors did not have, especially after seeing Luo Yuan taking credit for himself and still being so humble. He had a great favor for Luo Yuan and was convinced that there was another reason why Luo Yuan left the Alliance prosecutor team. Luo Yuan didn't know that Ishida had thought about so many things in his mind during the short time they were communicating. He just felt that the prosecutor commander named Ishida seemed to have a good impression of him. Just when Luo Yuan felt a little puzzled, Ishida was silent for a while and then tentatively spoke. "I wonder if Luo Yuan are interested in returning to the prosecutor team, become a formal Pokémon prosecutor again." He emphasized the word formal and emphasized his tone. "I still have some connections within the Alliance. If you are willing, you can rejoin the prosecutor team and become a formal prosecutor directly." As soon as these words came out, the prosecutors who were cleaning the battlefield on the side suddenly showed surprised expressions. Formal prosecutors. You know, even among the prosecutors who went on the mission together this time, a small half of them are still in the internship period like Luo Yuan before he resigned. It is not so easy to become a formal Pokémon prosecutor. Even if the intern prosecutors who have undergone long-term training want to be promoted, they still need to undergo a lot of assessments and examinations. Now their superiors actually directly invited Luo Yuan who has already resigned to become a formal prosecutor. Thank you for your kindness, but forget it. Being a Pokémon trainer is still good. Luo Yuan smiled and refused. He felt that, unless he was stupid, he would not give up the leisurely and promising Pokémon trainer and run to be a Pokémon prosecutor who had to carry out missions every day. It's okay to do things like maintaining world peace. If he does this every day, Luo Yuan will go crazy. Hearing Luo Yuan's refusal, his eyes flashed with regret. Okay. He felt very sorry. Just now, he witnessed the whole process of Luo Yuan catching the rocket's carders. He was sure that Luo Yuan's strength was definitely much greater than his. If Luo Yuan joined, they would definitely have a much better chance of winning in the future battle against the rockets. They would not be as helpless against the rockets as they are now. However, Luo Yuan clearly refused, and he could not continue to persuade him. At this time, he had put all his anger on the guy who caused Luo Yuan to resign. Damn it, what exactly caused Luo Yuan to resign from the position of prosecutor? He decided to go back and mobilize his connections to investigate who did it. If Luo Yuan was squeezed out today, who knows if other outstanding talents would be squeezed out? He must find out this scum hidden among them. Is there anything else? If there is nothing else, I will leave first. Seeing that more and more people were watching on the street, Luo Yuan, who didn't want to be watched by a group of passers-by, said, "Nothing more." I should aside, then bowed deeply to Luo Yuan. Finally, thank you for helping me regardless of past grudges. I've already said it was just a casual thing, so goodbye. Luo Yuan walked away with Bulbasaur. Juncha looked at Luo Yuan's back, a little dazed. Although he only appeared for less than an hour, Luo Yuan had left a deep impression in her heart. Just as she was watching Luo Yuan's figure disappear at the end of the street, feeling lost, Luo Yuan's voice suddenly rang in her ears. I almost forgot. Remember to transfer the bounty of that Kaz to my account. My account is. Juncha was immediately excited after hearing this and saluted to the place where Luo Yuan left. Yes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Eevee and Bulbasaur. I didn't expect that telekinesis could be used like this. Walking on the way to the next destination, Vermilion City, Luo Yuan was in a very good mood. When he left just now, he forgot to tell Juncha about the bonus. Because he was too lazy to squeeze through the crowd again, Luo Yuan used the telekinesis he had just obtained to try to see if he could send a message through the air. Unexpectedly, it really worked. Telekinesis is really useful. Luo Yuan sighed in his heart. Controlling objects, teleporting, and telekinesis. I really don't know what else telekinesis can't do. He thinks that, when he has free time in the future, he will not only train Pokémon, but also exercise his superpowers. Just thinking about it, he suddenly saw a large group of people gathered in front. What happened? It's rare to see a group of people gathered together on the road, but since so many people gathered together, it's obvious that something happened. With the idea of watching the excitement, Luo Yuan squeezed into the crowd. Then Luo Yuan saw a familiar figure. Yangtze? I just said goodbye to this guy Yangtze yesterday, and I didn't expect to see him again today. But now Yangtze's situation seems a little bad. Yangtze is now fighting with someone, and he is at a disadvantage. This is. Luo Yuan looked at the opponent opposite to Eevee, who seemed to be familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Pale green hair, looks prematurely aged, carrying a backpack on his back, and uses a Pokémon called Sandshrew. Just when Luo Yuan was about to figure out who this pale green boy was, a voice came into his ears from the side. Beastmaster Xiaoming is so powerful. Luo Yuan. When he was about to figure it out, he was told the answer. Luo Yuan felt a suffocation in his chest that could not be released, and he was very uncomfortable. After finally calming down, he heard the trainer next to him continue. Yeah, this is his 92nd victory, right? He can be considered invincible in all Cerulean. Only these ignorant foreign trainers dare to challenge Beastmaster Xiaoming. The words were full of flattery for Beastmaster Xiaoming. Luo Yuan did not comment on this. Having read the original novel, he admitted that this beast gave Xiaoming some strength. After all, not every trainer can set up a private ring and maintain a winning streak of more than 90 games. But to say that he is invincible in defeating all Huan is a bit too much. While thinking, Luo Yuan watched the battle between Yangtze and Xiaoming. The battle between the two sides was very fierce and had reached a very stalemate. The Pokémon used by Yangtze was very suitable for the identity of a novice Pokémon trainer. It was a bud. Normally, the Pokémon of both sides were in their initial forms and had not evolved, and the level difference was not particularly disparate. Then the bud, that had an advantage in attributes and restrained Sandshrew should have the upper hand. But the reality was completely opposite to what he imagined. Sandshrew had the upper hand in the battle, and the bud, that restrained the ground type Sandshrew was at a disadvantage. The reason for this was the strength level of the Pokémon. Xiaoming's Sandshrew was more than one level stronger than the bud in terms of reaction speed, adaptability, and physical strength. On the other hand, and the most important aspect, that was the difference in the command level of the trainers. It can be said that Xiaoming and Yangtze's command level is completely different. If Yangtze's command level is at the level of an elementary school student, Xiaoming's command level of Pokémon is at least at the level of a high school student or even a college student. Of course, Luo Yuan thinks that Xiaoming is still a little worse than him. At this moment, Xiaoming shook the whip in his hand, and Sandshrew retreated to avoid the continuous slaps of Bellsprout, and then distanced himself from Bellsprout. Just when the onlookers and Yangtze thought that Xiaoming was retreating, Luo Yuan's eyes condensed slightly. Xiaoming should prepare to win with one strike. Although he only watched for a while, as a trainer with a very high level of command, Luo Yuan was able to find clues from the changes in Sandshrews every move. Sandshrew, which had been showing a swift and fierce offensive before, suddenly began to retreat when it was not seriously injured. Luo Yuan could be sure that there was a conspiracy. Normal people might consider this a trap, but with Yangtze's brain, I'm afraid he won't think so much. Sure enough, just as Luo Yuan expected, Yangtze immediately became excited when facing Sandshrews' retreat and commanded Bellsprout to rush forward. Bellsprout, the opponent is scared. Take this opportunity to use Leaf Blade. The leaves flew and shot. Bellsprout's Leaf Blade did not have the spirituality of the Leaf Spirit. The trajectory was straight and rigid. A trainer with a little skill could see through the trajectory of the Leaf Blade at a glance. Sure enough, Xiaoming saw through Bellsprout's attack. He directly ordered, Sandshrew, move the sand. The sand was raised high, and the sky was full of yellow sand. The vision of the two Pokémon fighting in the field was greatly limited. Bellsprout was at a loss, and Yangtze, who should have reacted at this time, was also at a loss. Luo Yuan covered his face. For the first time, he doubted whether it was the right decision to take this guy as a younger brother. It would be better if you told the Budgerah to be on guard than it is now. At least that would reduce the chances of a successful sneak attack. Sure enough, there is a reason for being a loser. Then, when the Budgerah was in a panic, a shadow jumped out from behind the Budgerah. A claw flashing with cold light was raised high. Budgerah, be careful. Yangtze finally reacted at this time, but the enemy was so close before he gave the order. Even if the Budgerah had a fast reaction speed, it would not be able to respond in time. The claw chopped down the Budgerah, and it flew backwards on the spot, with 3 new wounds on its body, losing its ability to fight. It seems that I won this game. The Sandrat returned to Xiaoming's feet. Xiaoming said proudly with a smile on his face, as of you, this is my 92nd victory. Thank you for being the stepping stone to my 100th consecutive victory. Damn it. Yangtze, who became one of the 92 losers, was immediately dejected. I lost. I thought I could win. Yangtze looked at the trainers who were watching around him and found that they were all looking at Xiaoming with envy and admiration. He felt even worse. If the boss was here, he couldn't help but think about what Luo Yuan would be like if he was here. He would definitely teach this arrogant Xiaoming a lesson. And then he really saw Luo Yuan. Luo. Boss Luo Yuan? Yangtze looked surprised and shocked. His eyes were not blurry. He seemed to have really seen Boss Luo Yuan. Chapter 56 Provocation and Invitation to Battle. Boss Luo Yuan. After seeing Luo Yuan, Yangtze immediately felt like he had seen a relative. He was excited, and then he rushed towards Luo Yuan, looking like he was about to cry. The surrounding trainers heard the noise and looked over here with a curious look. This guy actually has a boss. Is he here to help this guy get revenge? Luo Yuan looked at Yangtze and had the urge to use teleportation to leave here. Is it too late to pretend that he doesn't know this guy now? Yangtze's current appearance is really embarrassing. However, Luo Yuan finally didn't teleport away directly because Yangtze was his first little brother. He moved his body 30 centimeters to the side, just avoiding Yangtze's rush. Yangtze was not discouraged and looked at Luo Yuan pitifully. Boss Luo Yuan, I lost, and I embarrassed you. No, I didn't. You didn't. Luo Yuan said in his heart, resisting the urge to blurt out. Luo Yuan looked at Yangtze inside, pointing out Yangtze's previous mistakes. I watched your fight just now. Boss, did you watch my fight just now? How did I lose? Is it because my budgie is not strong enough? When Yangtze heard that Luo Yuan actually watched his game, he immediately forgot about being mocked by Xiaoming and asked for advice. It's a big problem, but the main problem is not with the Pokémon, but with you. In the battle between Budgie and Sandshrew, you could have used the Leaf Blade to attack from a distance to consume the Sandshrew's physical strength at the beginning, but you chose to let Budgie fight Sandshrew in close combat. When you should have given orders, you were in a daze over there and did not respond effectively to the opponent's sand moving tactics, resulting in the loss of the best evasive opportunity, and the opponent found a flaw and killed you. There are many other problems. Hearing Luo Yuan point out the problems in his command, Yangtze felt more and more ashamed and finally lowered his head in shame. He always thought that his Pokémon was not strong enough to lose the game until Luo Yuan pointed out the problems. He realized that he had made so many mistakes. Yangtze secretly vowed in his heart that he must correct these problems and make himself stronger. He was very grateful to Luo Yuan, and Yangtze bowed to Luo Yuan and thanked him. Thank you, Boss Luo Yuan. But before Yangtze finished speaking, a voice came from the side. Are you his boss? Are you here to help him get back his position? The crowd made way, and Xiaoming said to Luo Yuan. He looked at Luo Yuan with interest. He had listened to Luo Yuan's previous analysis, and he had to say that there was some truth. But it was only a little truth. He didn't think that the guy named Yangtze could defeat him if he corrected these problems. Because in his opinion, Luo Yuan couldn't even see the difference between his Sandshrew and Yangtze's Bellsprout, and his strength was just so-so. Let's fight, if you want to help him get back his position, Xiaoming said provocatively. Xiaoming felt that his winning streak was going to increase again. Hearing Xiaoming's provocative words, Luo Yuan raised his eyebrows. My little brother was defeated, and I didn't even ask you for trouble first, but you came to me first. Interesting. Luo Yuan was not angry at all. Anger is for opponents of the same level. The opponents of the same level as Luo Yuan must be at least the middle level or even senior cadres of the Rockets. Xiaoming's provocation is only interesting to him. He turned his head to look at Yuji, who had an expectant expression on his face, and then looked at the trainers around him. Finally, he looked at Xiaoming and said, since you want to fight me so much, then I will fight you. But let me make it clear in advance that, if your winning streak is ended by me, don't blame me. No matter what, Yuji is his younger brother. If his younger brother is defeated, he, as the boss, must get back the ground, otherwise he will also lose face. Xiaoming directly ignored Luo Yuan's next words. Let you choose the rules of the game, 3v3 or 1v1, Xiaoming said very confidently. Since it's a competition, of course it's 3v3. Luo Yuan said in a teasing tone. I don't want people to think that I won because of luck after I won a game. 3v3 can better reflect my strength. Hearing the conversation between the two, the trainers around them suddenly became excited. It's tense. As a Pokémon trainer who has nothing to do all day, what I like most is to watch this kind of excitement. Then, with the help of many trainers, a piece of open space was cleared on the side of the road in an instant, leaving it for the two to fight. Don't your Pokémon need to rest? Luo Yuan asked, while throwing the Pokéball. No, hitting a Budgerigars can only be regarded as a warm-up. Xiaoming responded unwillingly. Then, the game begins. The trainer who acted as a temporary referee waved his hand and shouted. Both sides threw Pokeballs at the same time. The Pokémon sent by Luo Yuan was Ghastly, and the Pokémon sent by Xiaoming was Butterfree. TSK, you said no, but your body is still very obedient. Luo Yuan expressed his contempt for Xiaoming's behavior of not sending out Sandshrew in the first battle, even though he said his Sandshrew didn't need to rest. However, Xiaoming was the one who suffered the loss, because he didn't play by the rules. Ghastly is a ghost plus poison type Pokémon, and Butterfree is a flying plus bug type Pokémon. Although neither of them has attribute bonus when attacking the other, the effect of bug type attacking Ghastly is very poor. In the game, the moves of bug type can only cause 25% damage to Ghastly. Although the real world is not so accurate, it is certain that the moves of bug type will weaken Ghastly to a certain extent. So in this battle, Luo Yuan has a great advantage. It's restrained. Xiaoming also discovered this, but he didn't panic when he found that his Butterfree was restrained. Instead, he observed Ghastly very calmly. Your Ghastly is not weak. He judged that this Ghastly was not weak, based on its size and the bright color of the poison gas around its body. He secretly raised his vigilance in his heart. Although he had acted very arrogant before, as a trainer who had won 92 games in a row, he still had the necessary caution. Gas. Let's go first. This stalemate was not what Luo Yuan wanted. He didn't plan to waste too much time here, so he waved his hand and Ghastly rushed forward first. Toxic gas. Ghastly laughed strangely, and the thick poisonous gas spread from around Ghastly's body, wrapped Ghastly in the middle, and spread from the sky to the direction where Butterfree was. Chapter 57 Beastmaster Xiaoming. Hiding his body in the poisonous fog, Xiaoming felt a sense of deja vu. Are you going to learn my tactics? Blend in the poisonous fog and approach Butterfree. Xiaoming found that Luo Yuan actually wanted to use his tactics against him, and immediately sneered. If Luo Yuan had such an idea, he was wrong. He would not wait for the enemy to approach before counter-attacking like Yangtze did, and Butterfree, who has the flying attribute, wanted to disperse these poisonous gases too easily. Butterfree, use the Fierce Storm to disperse these poisonous gases. As Butterfree flapped its wings, a strong wind suddenly arose, and the whistling Fierce Storm easily dispersed the poisonous gases. Xiaoming was about to speak to hit Luo Yuan's fighting spirit with words, but he saw that Luo Yuan did not focus on the battle, but turned his head to Yangtze on the opposite side and said, "See, facing the kind of attack you just encountered, the best plan should be to disperse the sand and fog that obscured your vision." Is he treating him as teaching material? Xiaoming was immediately furious. When people get angry, they lose their calm. Xiaoming, who was in a state of rage, only wanted to defeat Luo Yuan. Of course, he had not abandoned the basic combat skills. The whip in his hand swung in the air, making a snapping sound. Butterfree, use Phantom Light. Since he knew that bug-type moves were not effective against Ghastly, he naturally would not use bug-type moves when dealing with Ghastly. Coincidentally, his Butterfree had a Psychic-type Phantom Light, which was just enough to restrain Ghastly. Butterfree heard Xiaoming's command, and immediately launched an attack. Two red eyes quickly locked onto Ghastly floating in the air. The colorful Phantom Light immediately enveloped Ghastly floating in the air. Facing Xiaoming's attack, Luo Yuan, who had been prepared, responded in an orderly manner. Gas, Shadow Clone. The black and purple Ghastly in the sky immediately split out of more than a dozen figures from its body. A large number of shadow mirrors lined up in a line in the sky, making it impossible for Butterfree to lock onto Ghastly's real body. However, the illusion light had already been used, and it was too late to stop the move. So Butterfree had to choose a target at random. The illusion light hit one of the Ghastlys, and the Ghastly that was hit immediately turned into a wisp of purple mist and floated into the sky. The other Ghastlys made faces at Butterfree, looking very mocking. Butterfree was immediately enraged, and another illusion light was directed at the many Ghastlys. This time it still hit the illusion. Seeing this, Xiaoming immediately warned Butterfree, "Butterfree, stay calm, don't be enraged. Use the Fierce Wind to disperse these shadow clones." Butterfree heard Xiaoming's instructions, but the effect was not ideal. Anger is different from other emotions. Once this emotion grows, it will not disappear if it is not vented. This is well reflected when Butterfree used the fierce wind. Butterfree obviously used all his strength to use the fierce wind this time. Whoosh! The strong wind came and shook the figures of the many Gastlers in the sky. As Ghastly and the others looked panicked, Butterfree and Xiaoming watched the shadow clones dissipate like bubbles one by one. In the end, not one was left. What happened? Where is Ghastly? The trainers who were watching Luo Yuan and Xiaoming fight were puzzled. After blowing away the shadow clones, shouldn't Ghastly's true form be exposed? How come Ghastly has disappeared now? Where is Ghastly? They asked the question Xiaoming wanted to ask. Where did Ghastly go? Could it be that the legend is true that Ghastly is a Pokémon made of gas, and Ghastly was blown away in the violent storm just now? Xiaoming certainly didn't believe this legend, especially when he saw Luo Yuan on the opposite side still looking calm. He was more convinced that Ghastly must be hiding. He scanned the field carefully, and he believed that Ghastly must be hiding somewhere in this field. Butterfree was also searching in the sky. Butterfree, which has compound eyes, has excellent vision, which effectively improves its hit rate and makes it easier for its moves to hit the target. But it is also because of this that it rarely encounters situations where it cannot find the position of its opponent. The frustration of not being able to find Ghastly, coupled with the anger hidden in the heart due to Ghastly's previous ridicule, the two emotions overlapped, making Butterfree very anxious. Butterfree flapped its wings vigorously, and a silver whirlwind with phosphorus powder swept the entire venue, trying to find the invisible Ghastly, but it could not even find Ghastly's shadow. Seeing that Butterfree had gradually lost its original vigilance, knowing that the time had come, Luo Yuan smiled slightly and snapped his fingers. Gast, now. With an order, a dark figure suddenly emerged from the shadow on the ground below Butterfree. Ghastly stared with big eyes, making a GG sound from his mouth, and shot at Butterfree in the sky like a cannonball. Butterfree, be careful. Ghastly is in your shadow. Xiaoming, who had been looking for Ghastly's position, found Ghastly's trace at the first time, and immediately reminded Butterfree. He only remembered that Ghastly had the ability to be invisible, but forgot that Ghastly could also hide in the shadows. Butterfree did not react immediately after hearing Xiaoming's instructions. If it was at the beginning of the battle, Butterfree would definitely respond to his instructions immediately. Butterfree obviously disappointed him now. Butterfree failed to avoid Ghastly's collision, and was hit by Ghastly. Butterfree and Ghastly are not much different in size, and although Ghastly's body is mostly made of gas, and is very light. However, in the high-speed impact, Butterfree was still hit, and spun in the air, before being caught off guard. While Butterfree was trying to control its balance in a hurry, Ghastly stuck to Butterfree tightly, stretched out its pink tongue, and licked Butterfree's body with a strange laugh. Butterfree. Xiaoming stared at Butterfree, which was paralyzed, and falling in the sky. This was Ghastly's tongue licking. This move can paralyze the opponent. Xiaoming has never encountered such a situation. In the past, it was his Butterfree that used paralysis powder to paralyze others, and Butterfree itself had never been paralyzed before. Bang! Butterfree fell to the ground, hitting the ground with a muffled sound. Ghastly refused to give in, and condensed a shadow ball in front of him, and shot it at Butterfree on the ground. Boom. After the violent explosion, Butterfree was bruised all over, and fell into a coma. He lost his ability to fight directly. The temporary referee next to him immediately made a judgment. Butterfree lost his ability to fight. Ghastly won. Wow. The trainers watching on the sidelines were shocked to see that the first battle turned out to be like this. Xiaoming, who they were optimistic about, lost the first game, and lost so cleanly that they were shocked. What about the 93 consecutive wins? If he had chosen a 1v1 battle just now, you would have lost this game just now. Some trainers next to him complained. While marveling at Xiaoming's complete defeat in the first battle, these trainers were also amazed at the strength shown by Luo Yuan. Where did this trainer come from? Why haven't I heard of his name in Cerulean City before? It was Yangtze's turn to appear. Yangtze boasted to the trainers around him, "My boss Luo Yuan led us to defeat Team Rocket." Hiss. So that's how it is. The Pokémon trainers around him suddenly realized that he was the boss who defeated Team Rocket. No wonder he was so powerful. So the admiring eyes that were originally looking at Xiaoming fell on Luo Yuan. Lost, Xiaoming felt his face burning as he listened to the cheers of Yangtze on the opposite side. This was the first time that he lost so helplessly in front of an opponent. Originally, Xiaoming felt that he had a sure win, but now a seed of doubt has been planted in his heart. He doubted whether he could win this game. This guy is very strong. Xiaoming gritted his teeth. He finally realized that Luo Yuan was not as he imagined, who could only talk about Pokémon on paper. Luo Yuan's ability to hide Ghastly in the shadow under Butterfree without verbal command showed that Luo Yuan was not simple. Xiaoming had spent many years trying to achieve this kind of tacit understanding with Pokémon, which was like a telepathic connection. Moreover, the guy on the opposite side seemed to have defeated Team Rocket. This can be said to be a medal that can prove strength and courage among trainers. Ordinary trainers do not have the strength and courage to go against Team Rocket. Realizing that Luo Yuan was not weak, Xiaoming put away his previous contempt and became cautious. Go, Sandshrew is up to you this time. The opponent is very strong, be careful. Xiaoming's second Pokémon sent out his trump card, Sandshrew. He wanted to use Sandshrew to win the next battle and regroup. Oh, you sent out your trump card in the second battle? But are you really going to use Sandshrew to deal with my Ghastly? Luo Yuan asked in a strange tone, and looked at Xiaoming's Sandshrew with interest. Standing opposite Xiaoming, Luo Yuan finally had the opportunity to take a closer look at this Sandshrew. The body is very strong, especially the limbs are particularly developed, and obvious signs of exercise can be seen. The skin was shiny, and the carapace on its back looked like it had been oiled, proving that this Sandshrew was healthy and in excellent mental state. I underestimated you before and let you win the first battle, but I won't do that now, Xiaoming said in a deep voice. In his opinion, sending out his trump card Sandshrew would be a sure win in this game. Then I'll wait and see. Luo Yuan smiled after hearing Xiaoming's words, but did not comment. The second game officially begins. As soon as the referee finished speaking, Sandshrew and Ghastly moved at the same time. Swoosh! A shadow ball brushed past Sandshrew's body and flew into the distant sky. Bang! A huge rock fell from the sky, but Ghastly easily dodged it. The two sides had their first tentative fight and were evenly matched. Chapter 58 Despicable Tactics. Having watched the battle between Yuji's Bellsprout and Sandshrew, Luo Yuan felt that he had roughly understood the strength of Sandshrew. In his opinion, his Ghastly should be able to easily defeat Sandshrew in a head-on fight. But when Ghastly and Sandshrew really fought, Luo Yuan realized that he had underestimated Xiaoming. Xiaoming's Sandshrew is indeed his trump card. After experiencing the previous battle with Yuji's Bellsprout, its combat power is still very strong. In the battle with Ghastly, it was not at all inferior. Ghastly passed by Sandshrew again in the field. The shockwave of the explosion of the shadow ball used by Ghastly knocked Sandshrew back, and the falling rocks used by Sandshrew also forced Ghastly to dodge everywhere. The fierce battle made the trainers on the sidelines very enjoyable. After retreating, Sandshrew used a sandstorm. In the sandstorm, Ghastly's body made of poisonous gas became a little blurry, and the dense sand and gravel mixed with a strong wind caused considerable damage to Ghastly. It looks like Sandshrew has the upper hand. Ghastly looks a bit bad. I also think Luo Yuan might lose this one. The onlookers said one after another. In their opinion, Ghastly might lose the game. After all, it looks a bit troublesome. Xiaoming looked at the panting Sandshrew, not as optimistic as the onlookers, but felt that the situation was very bad for him. It's not that there was anything wrong with Sandshrew. On the contrary, Sandshrew has been in very good condition since the beginning of the battle and has performed well both in offense and defense. It even caused damage to Luo Yuan's Ghastly just now. Although Luo Yuan's Ghastly has been maintaining its offensive momentum, it has been unable to cause damage to Sandshrew. But he found a very serious problem, which he only found after Sandshrew and Ghastly fought. That is the special nature of Ghastly. Although the combination of ghost and poison has no restrained relationship with Sandshrew's ground type. But the key is that Ghastly, as a ghost Pokémon, is made of gas. Many physical attacks cannot be said to be ineffective against it, but the damage it can cause is also minimal. Xiaoming noticed that during the battle, there were several times when Sansling was about to attack Ghastly, but it dodged because Ghastly was immune to physical attacks. And because Ghastly was floating in the sky, many of Sansling's skills, such as Quicksand Hell, were ineffective against Ghastly. On the contrary, Sansling was almost knocked down by the poisonous gas naturally emitted from Ghastly several times during the attack, because it was too close to Ghastly. This is a very bad trend. Ghastly's attack can threaten Sansling, but Sansling has no countermeasures. If Sansling's physical strength continues to be consumed, once there is a defensive mistake, it will be devastated. How can such a battle be fought? Ghastly can attack Sansling, but if Sansling can't hit Ghastly? Xiaoming's face did not change, but he was very anxious in his heart. He must find a way to break the situation. And Luo Yuan, who was opposite Xiaoming, still had a calm expression. When Xiaoming sent out Sandshrew, he had anticipated the current situation, so he emphasized to ask Xiaoming if he was sure to use Sandshrew to fight his Ghastly. But Xiaoming obviously didn't understand what he meant at the time, and insisted on sending out Sandshrew, and now he really tasted the bitter fruit. It's time to fight back. The reason why Luo Yuan let Ghastly fight Sandshrew alone was that he wanted to verify the results of his training on Ghastly's separation from command and fighting during this period. Now the effect has been verified, and the training results are quite good. Now Sandshrew has caused damage to Ghastly. Physical strength is Ghastly's weakness. He can't just let Sandshrew attack Ghastly. He also has to prepare to fight back. Staring at the battle between Ghastly and Sandshrew, Luo Yuan's mind was racing, and he quickly constructed a tactic against Sandshrew. Garrison, Sludge Bomb. Luo Yuan ordered. His sudden order to Ghastly surprised the surrounding trainers. It was not until the purple-black sludge bomb crossed a parabola in the air and hit the Sandshrew that the surrounding trainers reacted. This kind of attack can be easily avoided. Why would Luo Yuan give such an order? The trainers who were watching questioned the correctness of Luo Yuan's order. In their opinion, Ghastly had just been hurt by the sandstorm and should choose a more stable tactic. However, Luo Yuan simply ignored their doubts. In Luo Yuan's opinion, it was normal not to believe these guys. If he really fought according to what they said, his brain would be really broken. According to Luo Yuan's experience, when facing the doubts of the outside world, you must learn to filter out these useless information. Only in this way can you go further on the road of Pokémon trainers. Then Luo Yuan issued a bolder order. Luo Yuan, Garthel, stick to it. Taking advantage of the gap, when Sandshrew was avoiding the sludge bomb, Ghastly suddenly accelerated forward and quickly approached Sandshrew. Ghastly laughed sharply. The urgency of the enemy's rapid approach made Sandshrew tense all over, and his two big eyes stared at Ghastly, who was wrapped in purple gas. Sandstorm. Xiaoming ordered, and he decided to continue using the sandstorm. Although it may not look good to use the old trick again, it is already a very effective means in the current situation, where there is no offensive means. Sandstorm again. It seems that you think you can defeat me with this trick. Luo Yuan said to the Sandshrew, who was about to use the old trick again. But who gave you the courage to let the Sandshrew release the sandstorm directly in front of Ghastly? Did he really think that he had no means to fight back? It's time for Xiaoming to see what it means to use the characteristics of Pokémon to the extreme. He waved his hand, and Ghastly floated behind the Sandshrew. At this time, the Sandshrew's sandstorm had been launched. The sand and soil were blown up by the strong wind, and it seemed to be fierce, but it did not cause any harm to Ghastly. Careful Sandshrew, Ghastly is in your shadow. Xiaoming shouted immediately. Ghastly sneaked into the shadow of the Sandshrew at the moment when the Sandshrew launched the sandstorm, so the Sandshrew could not cause any harm to Ghastly. With Butterfree's experience, he was very alert to Ghastly sneaking into Sandshrew's shadow, so he noticed it immediately. However, some things cannot be solved just by discovering them. Ghastly, who sneaked into Sandshrew's shadow, seemed to have disappeared, and Sandshrew had no way to deal with Ghastly. Damn. Xiaoming felt uncomfortable all over. Ghastly was like an assassin hiding in the dark, lurking in the dark, waiting for the moment to give the opponent a fatal blow. Can Xiaoming ensure that his Sandshrew will not reveal any flaws at all times? Obviously not. This trick is useless against stronger trainers because they can completely withstand Ghastly's attack, wait for Ghastly to come out of the shadow, seize the opportunity to counterattack, and kill Ghastly, who is not known for his physical strength, in one blow. But Xiaoming's current situation is different. First, the strength of Sandshrew and Ghastly is not much different, and second, Sandshrew lacks effective means of attack. These two reasons combined have led to the current situation, where Sandshrew is helpless against Ghastly. Time passed, and the Sandshrews in the field were running around like headless flies. Only the scalded eyes flashing from time to time in the shadow behind the Sandshrews proved that Ghastly was still there. Ghastly's peeping from behind brought great pressure to the Sandshrews, and the Sandshrews even had to be careful of Ghastly's sneak attack when turning around. This situation lasted for a full minute. Seizing a flaw revealed by the Sandshrews' impatience, Ghastly in the shadows laughed strangely and emerged from the shadows. The purple poisonous gas spread quickly and enveloped the Sandshrews. The Sandshrews wrapped in the poisonous gas had a purple face and a painful expression on their faces. Sandshrew, get rid of the poisonous gas, Xiaoming said. If this continues, once the Sandshrews fall into the poison state, the balance of victory will completely fall to Ghastly. The Sandshrews of course understood this truth, but Ghastly was much faster than it, and no matter how hard it tried, it could not get rid of Ghastly, who was following it like a shadow. It tried to turn around and disperse Ghastly, but Ghastly was very cunning. As soon as Sandshrew showed signs of turning around and counter-attacking, it would immediately hide in the shadow. Then the following scene appeared on the battlefield. Sandshrew was fleeing frantically in front, and a Ghastly followed behind it, rising and falling in its shadow, avoiding Sandshrew's counterattack, and spreading poison gas from its body. There is such a way of fighting? I've seen it. It's so despicable. The surrounding trainers were amazed to see Luo Yuan's despicable tactics. At this time, they had forgotten their previous doubts about Luo Yuan, and were full of amazement. In their usual battles, they were used to the two sides setting up their positions and fighting back and forth. Now seeing Luo Yuan's operation was simply amazing. This is simply a rogue style of fighting. However, as trainers who are not strong enough in the eyes of others, the more this kind of despicable and rogue style of fighting, the more they like it. Because this allows them to see the hope of defeating the strong with the weak. Let's not talk about the fact that these trainers were planning to form a group to go to Lavender Town to capture Ghastly. The purple poisonous gas on the field became thicker and thicker, and Sandshrew's expression became more and more painful. When the poisonous gas reached a critical point, the running Sandshrew finally couldn't resist the toxicity of the poisonous gas, and its feet softened and fell to the ground. Sandshrew has lost his ability to fight, and Ghastly wins again. Chapter 59. Noble Character. The referee announced that Sandshrew had lost its ability to fight. As a Ghastly with good qualities and moral character, Ghastly took back the poisonous gas and did not continue to harm the Sandshrew that had lost its ability to fight. Sandshrew. As soon as the poisonous gas dissipated, Xiaoming immediately rushed up, holding the poisoned Sandshrew, and anxiously searched for the antidote in his backpack. He did not find the antidote, so he had no choice but to take out a few sweet peaches that could detoxify and feed them to the Sandshrew. But seeing that the Sandshrew was still in great pain, the effect of the sweet peaches was not ideal. Are you looking for an antidote? Here you go. Luo Yuan took out a bottle of detoxification spray from his space backpack and threw it to Xiaoming. Ghastly is very toxic, so this special antidote is needed. Luo Yuan had done a special test before. Ghastly is very toxic, so toxic that ordinary antidotes can only play a containment role on the poisoning state caused by Ghastly, and there is no way to completely detoxify it. So Luo Yuan specially made this special antidote using tree fruits and some materials according to the information in the Pokémon training manual in his mind. Thank you. With his most important Pokémon in danger, Xiaoming didn't care that he was still a rival with Luo Yuan. He thanked Luo Yuan with great gratitude, then quickly opened the mouth of the Sandshrew and sprayed the antidote spray at the Sandshrew. The system's products must be top-notch. The antidote spray made according to the steps in the training manual took effect very quickly. In just a dozen seconds, the purple air on the Sanshrew's face slowly faded and returned to normal. Seeing the Sandshrew return to normal, Xiaoming breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you very much, I was rude before. When he said the second half of the sentence, Xiaoming seemed very embarrassed. After all, he had provoked Luo Yuan many times before, but Luo Yuan not only did not retaliate, but now he handed him the antidote spray without letting go of the past. This behavior of repaying evil with kindness made him feel very ashamed. It's nothing, we are all trainers. Luo Yuan waved his hand. He didn't take the previous matter to heart. As mentioned before, in his opinion, Xiaoming's level is too far from his. The people who chatted and laughed with him were all Rocket Team carders and Pokémon prosecutors. He couldn't get angry, even if he wanted to. However, in the eyes of Xiaoming, Yuji and the trainers watching nearby, this is a manifestation of broad-mindedness. This is a very noble moral quality. If they only admired Luo Yuan's strength before, now they respect Luo Yuan's character from the bottom of their hearts. Even the trainers who were not convinced by Luo Yuan's strength before, and thought that Luo Yuan won the game by despicable means had to admit that Luo Yuan was a respectable person. Xiaoming felt more and more ashamed. He took a deep breath. I lost this game today. Xiaoming's sudden admission of defeat made Luo Yuan stunned, and waved his hand. Well, you don't have to feel burdened. I'm also looking forward to the next battle. Luo Yuan said. He likes this feeling of bullying, especially enemies like Xiaoming who are not very weak, and have certain resistance. Luo Yuan likes this kind of opponent the most, because this can not only hone his cooperation with his Pokémon, but also increase Pokémon's battle experience. After all, if he finds a stronger opponent, he can only send out Steelix and Metagross to ensure victory. Weak enemies are not worth fighting. No, I can still see the gap between us. Xiaoming shook his head and said, you only used one Ghastly to defeat my most proud Sandshrew and Butterfree, and there are 2 Pokémon that have not been sent out. No matter what, my remaining Pokémon cannot win 3 games in a row, so I lost this game. You ended my winning streak. Are you really not going to continue playing? Maybe my remaining Pokémon are very weak except Ghastly. Luo Yuan felt a little bit sorry. It was hard to find an opponent suitable for him to bully the weak, so he continued to lure Xiaoming to continue fighting. No, and my Sandshrew needs to go to the Pokémon Center for treatment. Xiaoming has a very legitimate reason. Hearing this, Luo Yuan knew that Xiaoming would not be able to play a third game with him, and sighed. Okay. This look made the trainers around him sigh again. Look, what a good person. The opponent took the initiative to admit defeat and still persuaded him again and again. In this society, where people are so sinister, where can we find such a good trainer? Of course, they don't know, and can't know, that Luo Yuan just wanted to send Bulbasaur to the field for training in the third game, but now Bulbasaur has no chance to play, so he feels very sorry. Xiaoming's winning streak ended at 92 consecutive wins. But not only did he not feel any loss in his heart, but he breathed a sigh of relief. This made him feel very strange. Why did he feel relaxed when he took the initiative to admit defeat? Maybe this is the terrible pressure that Luo Yuan brought me. Xiaoming thought to himself. With this thought, the battle that lasted for more than an hour finally ended with the referee announcing that Luo Yuan had successfully defeated Xiaoming. Luo Yuan, I will work hard to practice and challenge the gym. When the quartz conference begins, I will challenge you again on the quartz plateau. Xiaoming issued a challenge to Luo Yuan. Although his winning streak ended, and he did not win 100 games, Xiaoming still decided to start his journey. If I can meet you at the quartz conference, I will do my best. Luo Yuan smiled. By the way, I'll show you Steelix and Metagross. You shouldn't feel desperate, right? Of course, Luo Yuan said the second half of the sentence in his heart. In a harmonious atmosphere, the onlookers gradually dispersed. Most of them left in the direction of Lavender Town. It can be predicted that the ghost-type Pokémon in Lavender Town will not lack targets for them to tease recently. At the same time, Luo Yuan's reputation also spread to the entire league along with these onlookers. The legend of a trainer who is very good at using Ghastly and has a very noble character gradually spread among the rookie trainer circle in the Kanto region. Chapter 60 Pokémon Academy. Luo Yuan's legend gradually spread among the Pokémon trainers, and Luo Yuan was completely unaware of it. He was standing in front of a forest at this time, raising his hand to disperse the Bobo who pounced from the sky and wanted to snatch the sweet orange fruit from his hand. Luo Yuan looked around. I always feel that this place looks very familiar. He had an inexplicable sense of familiarity with the surrounding scenery, as if he had been here before. He himself had definitely not been here, so it must be that his predecessor had been here before. Looking up at the building looming on the hillside, this seems to be the Pokémon Academy. Luo Yuan recalled the memory of his predecessor. He knew about the Pokémon Academy. In the original book, this was an aristocratic school that pursued an elite education of survival of the fittest. Zyozzy and others accidentally broke into the Pokémon Academy because they got lost and then had a series of conflicts with the students of the Pokémon Academy. But what Luo Yuan found very interesting was that his predecessor had actually studied at the Pokémon school for a period of time and was a student of the Pokémon school. After carefully searching his memory, Luo Yuan's face became more and more strange. What the hell is going on here? A person's memory is very vast. Even though Luo Yuan had spent a long time trying to understand his predecessor's memory, he only skimmed through it. Now, after carefully reviewing his predecessor's experience at the Pokémon Academy, Luo Yuan discovered that his experience at this Pokémon school was not a pleasant one. It turned out that his predecessor had studied at the Pokémon Academy for a period of time, but because he was a transfer student at the time, he could not keep up with the course progress, so he was the last one among many students, and was often subjected to some cold violence. For example, there was often garbage thrown under his seat, the Pokémon used in combat training was deliberately injured, and he was always ridiculed on weekdays. If it were a normal school, such things could be handled by the teacher. But in this Pokémon school that is almost equivalent to an aristocratic school, as long as it does not rise to the level of fighting, the teacher does not interfere with the competition between students. Such behavior is left to the students to deal with on their own. It is precisely because of this that the atmosphere of the entire Pokémon school has become distorted. Some students who claim to be strong have even invented a distorted method called whipping of love to make their bullying of weak classmates formal and reasonable. The predecessor eventually couldn't stand the pressure and had to drop out of school and then entered the Pokémon Prosecutor Academy to study and finally discovered his talent in becoming a Pokémon prosecutor. Is there school violence in the Pokémon world? Luo Yuan felt a little unhappy. He originally thought that the enemy of his predecessor was only the superior who threw the pot on him in the Pokémon prosecutor department, but he didn't expect there was such a thing. Although this was the experience of the predecessor, not his experience, since he had traveled to this body, Luo Yuan felt that he had to fight back for the unfair treatment suffered by the predecessor. He was in a good mood today, but now it was all ruined by these bad things. He is very unhappy now, and Luo Yuan never wrongs himself in such matters. Looking up at the Pokémon school looming in the clouds on the mountainside, Luo Yuan touched his chin and raised a faint sneer at the corner of his mouth. Are you a student of the Pokémon school? I, Luo Yuan, am back again. As he spoke, he followed the route in his previous incarnation's memory and walked into the mist. Today's practical course ends here. Students who have finished the course, please return to the classroom with your Pokémon as soon as possible. Standing in front of the gate of the Pokémon school, Luo Yuan was just in time for the end of the battle course. A group of students wearing uniform school suits were walking towards the teaching building in groups of 3 or 5. Seeing Luo Yuan walking towards the school, a group of people showed curious looks on their faces. The Pokémon Academy is located in a very remote area deep in the mountains, and it is a closed-door school. In addition, there are many wild Pokémon living around the school, so few people come to the Pokémon Academy. But today someone came to the door. And it was a teenager who looked the same age as them. Amid the curious expressions of the students of the Pokémon Academy, a person walked out from the back. The person looked about 16 or 17 years old, with blonde hair and black eyes. He was wearing a uniform suit of the Pokémon Academy. He frowned and looked at Luo Yuan with a little arrogance in his eyes. This is the Pokémon Academy. Outsiders please do not approach. He walked to the gate and said to Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan looked at this guy and felt that he was very familiar. After a careful look, he found that he was actually an acquaintance of his predecessor. He was one of the people who bullied his predecessor when he was studying at the Pokémon school. Is there an outsider? I'm not an outsider, Luo Yuan said, looking at the guy in front of him. Huh. Hearing Luo Yuan say this, the blonde boy frowned and looked at Luo Yuan, thinking carefully, and then seemed to think of something. Are you Luo Yuan? You actually came back? While talking, he looked down at Luo Yuan. Are you unable to make it outside and want to come back to study again? Listening to the blonde boy's self-satisfied speech, Luo Yuan shook his head, staring at the blonde boy's eyes with sharp eyes. When the blonde boy felt cold all over, he said, "No, I'm here to challenge." Chapter 61 Koji's Conflict. The blonde boy opposite to him thought he had misheard when he heard Luo Yuan's words. "Call me?" The blonde boy, Heoji, looked at Luo Yuan with an incredible expression, as if he was looking at a madman. "Yes, I'm calling me." Luo Yuan nodded. At this time, the students of the Pokémon Academy in the distance saw that Heoji had not returned yet, and they all gathered around. What happened to Heoji? A student who seemed to be very familiar with Heoji asked Heoji. "I met a guy who didn't know his own strength. This guy said he wanted to come to the gym to challenge me." Heoji looked at Luo Yuan and said to his companion in a teasing tone. In his opinion, Luo Yuan came to the Pokémon Academy to challenge, which was simply overestimating his own strength. Whether he didn't know his own strength or not, you will know after the fight. Luo Yuan took the Pokéball from his waist and said calmly, "You want to fight me?" Heoji was really confused at this time. In his opinion, Luo Yuan had studied in the Pokémon Academy after all, and he should know the strength of the students of the Pokémon Academy. But Luo Yuan dared to challenge him on his own initiative. Could it be that he had something to rely on? Or did he catch some powerful Pokémon during the time he was away from the Pokémon Academy? Thinking this way, his men hesitated. It didn't matter that he hesitated, but the students of the Pokémon Academy who were watching on the side were not happy. After a while, they already understood what was going on here. They were indignant that someone dared to provoke their Pokémon Academy, and they wanted to teach this arrogant guy a lesson. Now that the other party has taken the initiative to challenge, Koji, who was challenged, actually backed down. This was a great shame for them. Koji, hurry up. Yes. Don't be afraid. Defeat this guy. Let him know how powerful our Pokémon Academy is. The crowd encouraged and shouted. Koji heard the urging from behind, and his heart was very conflicted. On the one hand, it was Face, and on the other hand, it was an unknown opponent. After thinking it over again and again, he made up his mind, and took out the Pokéball. Fight. Koji didn't believe at all that a guy who always ranked last in school could surpass him, an excellent student, after leaving the Pokémon Academy with first-class teaching conditions. Let's go to the training ground. Koji led the way to the training ground. Luo Yuan looked at the crowd around him who were staring at him with unfriendly faces, with a strange smile on his face. Lead the way. The rules of the game are a 3v3 standard battle. Pokémon cannot be changed during the battle. Items and recovery medicine are not allowed during the battle. Is there any problem? A student who was called to act as a referee asked both sides. No problem. Okay then, let's start the game. As soon as the voice fell, Koji and Luo Yuan threw the Pokéball at the same time. Koji wanted to seize the initiative, while Luo Yuan simply didn't care. Crack, a dazzling arc flashed, and an orange Raichu appeared on the field, with a slender tail swinging behind it, looking full of fighting spirit and momentum. It's Raichu. Senior Koji's Raichu. This game is definitely won. As soon as they saw Raichu appear, the students of the Pokémon Academy on the sidelines shouted. They shouted deliberately loudly when they shouted, trying to put pressure on Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan was speechless about the childish behavior of these students. You really haven't seen the world. He opened the Pokéball in his hand, and a beam of white light shot into the field. Then, the huge figure of Metagross appeared in the field. It's the quasi-god of the Hone region, Metagross. Metagross? Why does he have Metagross? Seeing that the Pokémon released by Luo Yuan was actually Metagross, the students of the Pokémon Academy who were watching were immediately shocked. What's going on? Why does the other side have a quasi-god level Pokémon like Metagross? When Koji on the opposite side saw Metagross, he was also panicked. Metagross, even if you haven't eaten pork, you have seen pigs run. The Pokémon Academy has a course dedicated to introducing the quasi-gods of various regions, and he naturally knows about Metagross. But he never expected to encounter Metagross in this situation. How can he play this game? As a trainer who has received the elite education of the Pokémon Academy, in Koji's mind, there is an insurmountable gap between quasi-gods and ordinary Pokémon. When Koji thought about fighting a quasi-god, his scalp tingled. He also had a faint doubt in his heart. His memory should be correct. Luo Yuan should be the last one in the past, but why can this last one take out a Pokémon like Metagross? Question mark? However, at this point, many things are no longer decided by him. He stands here, representing the face of the entire Pokémon Academy. If he escapes without a fight, he will definitely be nailed to the Academy's pillar of shame in the future. So Koji gritted his teeth. He decided to fight with all his strength, so that even if he loses, he will lose gloriously. And what if he wins? What if this Metagross is just a showpiece? Thinking of this, Koji regained his confidence. Raichu, let's go. 100,000 volts. Koji took the lead in attacking. Raichu's slender tail shook, and a thick arc of electricity burst out from the battery bag on Raichu's cheek, striking the Metagross floating in the sky. Megalodon, block it. Metagross crossed his arms in front of him, and a light blue light curtain formed in front of Metagross. The fierce 100,000 volts didn't even touch the edge of Metagross, and disappeared into the air without leaving any trace. Raichu, Iron Tail. If long range attack doesn't work, switch to close combat. Raichu jumped high, and a white light flashed from his tail, slashing down at Metagross from top to bottom. Megalodon, telekinesis. With a flash of blue light in his eyes, Metagross's powerful telekinesis was stimulated, and the Raichu falling from the sky was immediately fixed in midair, as if the pause button was pressed, unable to move. Raichu, break free. Seeing that Raichu was trapped, Koji immediately felt something was wrong. Sure enough, the next second Metagross's arm flashed a white light, and then he smashed the Raichu in the sky with force. Boom. Raichu smashed into the ground of the training ground, smashing a big hole. Raichu has lost his ability to fight. Metagross wins. Unexpectedly, the first match ended so quickly. The referee, who was completely unprepared, announced the result of the first match in a panic. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, 3 Victories. Damn, too strong. Heyoji looked at Luo Yuan and Metagross, and he was desperate at this moment. Although he knew that Metagross was very strong, his Raichu was not weak either. He originally thought that Raichu could last a few rounds in front of Metagross. Unexpectedly, it was killed after only 2 encounters. Metagross was so powerful that it was suffocating. Too weak. Where is your second Pokémon? Luo Yuan still had the same expression as before, and there was no happy look on his face, as if the previous victory was nothing to him. In fact, the battle just now was not even a warm-up for him and Metagross. Heyoji gritted his teeth when he heard it go. Charmeleon. A Charmeleon with deep red skin and sharp claws appeared on the field. If he remembered correctly, Metagross was a Pokémon with steel plus psychic attributes, and Charmeleon, a fire type, should be able to restrain Metagross. If there is an attribute restraint, we should be able to hold out longer and not lose so badly. Koji was not greedy at all. He just wanted to hold out longer and not lose face in front of his companions. With this in mind, Koji chose a defensive skill as his first move. Charmer, use all your strength. Use the flame whirlpool. Charmer opened his mouth, and hot orange-red flames gushed out of his mouth, turning into a huge flame vortex 5 or 6 meters high in the center of the field, and swept towards the direction of Metagross. Metagross, high-speed stars. Facing the oncoming flame vortex, Metagross was not afraid. With a wave of his 2 iron arms, a large area of shining high-speed stars rushed towards the oncoming flame vortex like a galaxy. High-speed stars? I should be able to block it. Looking at the incoming high-speed stars, Koji thought to himself. The power of high-speed stars is not strong, and it mainly wins by numbers. His Charmer's Flame Whirlpool is specially trained and can block ordinary attacks. He thinks this time should be no exception. Just as the thought flashed through his mind, there was a loud explosion. Boom. The high-speed star collided with the flame vortex, making a loud explosion. The flame vortex was broken, as if it was made of paper. The high-speed star fell on Charmeleon, making Charmeleon scream and bruise all over. Charmeleon, get out of the way. Koji had never expected this result. Seeing Charmeleon being hit by the high-speed stars, he said hurriedly, Metallica, don't let Charmeleon go. Move at high speed, and use bullet fists. Swish. Metagross raised its fist, that was flashing with white light. Its body, which was originally suspended in the air, suddenly accelerated. A silver grey figure flashed in the air. The next second, bang, Charmeleon's body flew backwards in the air. Before it landed, it had rolled its eyes, and lost consciousness and passed out. Charmeleon has lost its ability to fight. The referee announced the result of the second game. The Pokémon Academy students who were watching at the edge of the battlefield looked incredible. Senior Koji lost again. Even Charmeleon can't do it? Charmeleon is obviously a counter to Metagross. There were shouts of disbelief from the sidelines. They found it incredible that Koji lost so quickly. Charmeleon. Koji's mind was like a mess. This was completely different from what he imagined. His Charmeleon could not even hold out against Metagross for as long as Raichu did before. Sure enough, my main Pokémon is still Raichu. This thought flashed through his mind, and Koji quickly shook his head hard. What am I thinking about? I'm going to lose the game. Although he said this to himself, he knew it very well. He sent out 2 Pokémon, and even with the attribute restraint, they failed to cause damage to Metagross. He had already lost this game. Do you want to continue fighting? Luo Yuan looked at Koji's depressed face and said. He was a little speechless now. He was obviously the victim. Why did these guys make him look like a villain? Fight. Koji did not admit defeat. The game has already come to this point. If he admits defeat, wouldn't all the beatings he received before be in vain? Koji sent out the third Pokémon. Go, Nidoking. Roar. A Nidoking that looked very strong and exuded a fierce aura appeared on the field. This Nidoking was a Pokémon he had just captured recently. He had not yet established a tacit understanding with Nidoking, resulting in this Nidoking not being very obedient. But today, in addition to Nidoking, he only brought Raichu and Charmeleon. Before Luo Yuan sent out Metagross, he had never expected this situation to happen. So he had no choice but to send out Nidoking. After seeing Metagross, the Nidoking that appeared let out a roar and ignored Koji's instructions and rushed directly towards Metagross. Nidoking ran wildly in the field, and the entire ground trembled slightly. Koji. Luo Yuan. Looking at Nidoking charging towards Metagross, Luo Yuan felt speechless. When he first saw Nidoking, he thought he could have a fight with him that was a bit worthwhile, but he didn't expect him to be a fool. Metagross, Comet Fist. Facing the Nidoking that was charging at him, Metagross swung his iron arm. Then, the fist with a white glow slammed down and landed on Nidoking's head. Bang! Nidoking was knocked to the ground by Metagross neatly. Nidoking has lost his ability to fight. Metagross wins. Metagross won 3 games in a row. Suddenly, all the students of the Pokémon Academy who were watching looked ugly. They felt humiliated. As a member of the Pokémon Academy, they were beaten up and beaten 3 times by a Pokémon without any ability to fight back. This was simply a great shame. For a while, the crowd was excited. Luo Yuan crossed his arms and looked at the students of the Pokémon Academy who wanted to eat him. He didn't feel anything special. In his opinion, these were all spoiled brats. The closed elite oppressive education made these people twisted and extreme, giving rise to these students who used strength as a means of class division and bullied the weak as a way to vent their negative emotions. It would be fine if it didn't happen to him, but since his predecessor was hurt by this kind of education, Luo Yuan felt that he had the obligation and the right to change this situation. Chapter 63 Internal Strife. While Luo Yuan was thinking about this, the situation had changed. A group of Pokémon students who felt humiliated could not hold back their anger and began to speak ill of Haier. Normally, if they wanted to cause trouble, they should first find Luo Yuan. But Luo Yuan had not taken back the Metagross yet. Under the threat of the Metagross, these students did not dare to cause trouble to Luo Yuan, so they turned around and found Haoer, who caused them to lose face. Haoer's 3 Pokémon all lost their combat ability, and after losing 3 games in a row, he was in a low mood and immediately became the target of everyone's anger. It's all because of you. Our Pokémon Academy has lost face. We actually lost 3 games in a row. It's so embarrassing. Isn't it just 3-0? I can do it too. Some of them were Haoer's former companions, some were Haoer's former admirers, and some were once the objects of Haoer's bullying. At this time, they all joined the ranks of kicking him when he was down. Haoji looked at his former classmate who was actually speaking ill of him, and his face turned ugly. However, he lost the game and lost the face of the Pokémon Academy. This was an indisputable fact, and he could not refute it. It was also at this moment that he began to reflect on what he had done before. Luo Yuan watched coldly from the side. Seeing this scene, he felt that his predecessor was simply out of his mind. How could he have thought of studying in such a place in the first place? Fortunately, he dropped out of school early, otherwise his 3 views would have been destroyed. Fortunately, his revenge on Haoji and the group of guys who caused his predecessor to drop out of school was not so strong. Looking at Haoji, who was caught in the condemnation of the crowd and could be crushed at any time like a small tree in a storm, Luo Yuan spoke. I say, you guys, can you be quiet? I'm here to challenge you, not to watch your internal strife. Is there anyone who dares to accept my challenge? As soon as Luo Yuan said this, the chaotic battlefield became quiet, and the voices condemning Haoji stopped abruptly. Many students of the Pokémon Academy then remembered that Luo Yuan, who came to challenge the school, was still nearby. Everyone looked at each other, but no one dared to step forward to fight Luo Yuan. Haoer, who was trapped in the condemnation of his companions, was also freed. He looked up at Luo Yuan with an incredible look on his face. When he saw that his previous companions had joined the ranks of condemning him as a self-aware person, he also understood his usual popularity. He originally thought that no one would help him, and he was ready to bear everyone's anger. But unexpectedly, Luo Yuan, who he originally thought was the least likely to help him, actually helped him at this time. Although for Luo Yuan, this may be just a matter of words, but for Haoer, who was already in despair at this time, it was undoubtedly a ray of light in the darkness. Haoer held back his tears, his heart full of gratitude to Luo Yuan and regret for his previous actions. But Luo Yuan didn't care about Haoer's thoughts. He was not helping Haoer. He just couldn't stand these guys blaming everything on others. There are many Pokémon trainers who are stronger than Koji among these people, but these guys would rather stand there and accuse Koji than stand up and fight him. Luo Yuan has always despised this kind of behavior of bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Why can't even one person come out of the Pokémon Academy? Looking at the trainers who had turned off the engine, Luo Yuan asked again. Everyone looked at each other and finally locked their eyes on one person. Brother Jingai, why don't you go up? Senior Jingai, you are the strongest among us. Yes, Senior Jingai, you come. Everyone promoted a student named Jingai from the crowd. I'm not. I didn't. Don't talk nonsense. How dare the guy named Jingai agree? The previous lesson of Koji was vivid in their minds. Can the Metagross of that guy named Luo Yuan, who has not yet graduated, be dealt with? What if he is also beaten 3-0? Doesn't it mean that he will be the next person to be denounced? He didn't want to be nailed to the pillar of shame with Koji and accept the condemnation of everyone. Jingai's eyes turned quickly and fell on his companion next to him. He stretched out his hand and pushed. Fukuhama. Yes, Fukuhama is stronger. Fukuhama, didn't you beat me last time? You should take on this battle. It just so happens that your flame horse can restrain Metagross. No, Fukuhama also hurriedly refused, then looked at other people and found another scapegoat. In the process of mutual shirking, the entire training ground suddenly became chaotic, like a market, and it was completely impossible to tell that this was the so-called Pokémon Academy, which was famous for its elite education. Interesting. Luo Yuan folded his arms and watched these students shirking each other, and his ugly behavior was full of relish. Some new students who had just joined the Pokémon Academy looked at this scene in disbelief. These seniors seemed to have suddenly fallen from the sky, rolled in the mud, and were covered in filth. In their minds, the image of the seniors who were very tall and strict collapsed. Luo Yuan only said one sentence, and completely tore the gorgeous coat wrapped around the Pokémon Academy, revealing the ugliness inside. Some students with quick thinking thought a lot, based on this scene, and looked at Luo Yuan with complicated expressions. Just as Luo Yuan was waiting for these people to decide the winner, and choose one person to fight with him, a cold voice suddenly came from a distance. Enough. The noise stopped abruptly. Luo Yuan turned his head, and saw a girl with long brown red hair, wearing the Pokémon Academy uniform, and a pretty face standing in the distance, and shouting at this side, "Shut up, don't you think our Pokémon Academy is not embarrassed enough?" When the many students who were originally arguing saw the girl, they immediately looked like mice seeing a cat, with panic expressions on their faces. They said in unison, "Miss Sunday." The person who came was Yuto Sunday. The real person of weight is here? Luo Yuan looked at Yuto Sunday, who was walking slowly, and his expression was still the same as before. He was not panicked. For him, whether it was Yuto Sunday or anyone else, he did not think there was any Pokémon trainer in this school who could beat him. "Are you the trainer who came to our Pokémon Academy to cause trouble?" Yuto Sunday looked at Luo Yuan and asked. She had a cold expression and looked very powerful. Chapter 64 Yuto Sunday. "Are you the trainer who came to our Pokémon Academy to cause trouble?" Yuto Sunday asked. Her expression was very cold, and she looked at Luo Yuan with an unfriendly look. "Yes, it's him. It's him, Miss Sunday." The students who were frightened by Luo Yuan before suddenly seemed to have found their backbone, and said to Yuto Sunday, "I didn't ask you." Yuto Sunday showed no mercy and scolded coldly. She was in a very bad mood now. She was reading in the library, and suddenly someone came to tell her that something big happened in the school. As a result, when she arrived, she saw the dirty scene just now. It was a complete disgrace to the Pokémon Academy. Now these people actually have the nerve to talk in front of her. If it weren't for the enemy at hand, she would definitely teach these idiots a lesson. Hearing what Yuto Sunday said, Luo Yuan smiled slightly, and looked into her eyes. "Making trouble? I didn't make trouble. I just came here to challenge according to the formal procedures. After coming here, I just played a formal 3v3 game with the students of your school and said a few words without any insulting nature. If you say you made trouble, then you must not be talking about me. I don't admit it." Humph. Sunday snorted and said nothing. Luo Yuan did not reveal anything, whether it was what he did or said. Since entering the Pokémon Academy, Luo Yuan has not done anything out of the ordinary. She really couldn't find any problems. And, to be precise, I'm not an outsider. After all, I have studied in the Pokémon Academy for a period of time before. Have you forgotten, Miss Sunday? Luo Yuan said. He remembered that, when he was studying in the Pokémon Academy, he seemed to be sitting in the backseat of Sunday. Hearing Luo Yuan's words, Sunday looked thoughtful, and then suddenly remembered. "You are Luo Yuan?" Sunday said, feeling a little unbelievable. She recognized Luo Yuan, but the Luo Yuan in her memory was completely different from the Luo Yuan now. The Luo Yuan in her memory was a quiet boy who didn't talk much. He had poor academic performance and was the last in the class. He was completely different from her, an excellent student. She only paid attention to Luo Yuan occasionally, but didn't pay much attention to him. But she didn't expect that Luo Yuan would come to her door and have such a strong Metagross. As she spoke, Shengdai's eyes swept over the Metagross floating beside Luo Yuan, and a trace of caution flashed in her eyes. After not seeing him for a while, the lust in her eyes actually grew to such a powerful level. But she was puzzled again. "Since you have also studied in the Pokémon Academy, why do you come to challenge? This doesn't make sense at all. You have to ask Koji about this." Luo Yuan pointed to Koji, who was squatting in the corner next to him, and didn't dare to speak, for fear of being noticed. "What's going on?" Shengdai's eyes cast over, and Koji's body stiffened. He said with some embarrassment and regret, "Miss Shengdai, because Luo Yuan's grades were at the bottom, we gave him some inappropriate guidance. Then he turned his head and bowed to Luo Yuan at a 90-degree angle. "I'm very sorry. I apologize for our previous behavior." Shengde knew the reason as soon as she heard it. She knew some of the unspoken rules of the Pokémon Academy. She also knew that students with poor academic performance would be bullied by some students with good academic performance, but she didn't expect that such a thing would cause such a big mess. "You came here because of this matter." "Yes, I came to the Pokémon Academy this time because of the previous matter." Luo Yuan did not hide it. "I suddenly passed by here and remembered the previous matter. I felt a little unhappy, so I came here." Luo Yuan said it very easily. But the students of the Pokémon Academy, including Shengde, only felt a very ridiculous feeling. They were so ugly and the entire academy was disgraced just because they felt a little unhappy when the other party passed by. What is this? They are about to collapse. Sunday suppressed the anger in her heart, looked at Luo Yuan, gritted her teeth and said, "Are you satisfied now? If you are satisfied, can you leave?" She felt that Luo Yuan was too dangerous. He brought his Pokémon to challenge their Pokémon Academy just because he felt unhappy. This was simply unreasonable. Satisfied? Of course not. Since it is a challenge, it must be carried out from beginning to end. If he was satisfied, he was indeed satisfied. But who made the system issue a task just now, so he couldn't leave now? Random task, defeat Yuto Sunday and get the number of bronze draws *1. Although the task reward is only the lowest level of bronze draw, but the mosquito leg is still meat. Luo Yuan has no reason to let it go. "What do you want?" Yuto Sunday made up his mind to call the security immediately if Luo Yuan made any excessive demands. As an aristocratic academy, the security of the Pokémon Academy is still very strong. "Come and fight me. I won't use Metagross. If you win, I will keep my mouth shut about what happened today." It was a very tempting offer. Once the news of what happened today got out, it would be a devastating blow to the reputation of the Pokémon Academy. If Luo Yuan could keep his mouth shut, the impact of this incident could be minimized. But she didn't agree immediately. It was better to ask some things in advance. "What if we lose?" "A public apology. It's very simple." Luo Yuan said. "Okay." Sunday agreed decisively. The Pokémon Academy was at fault in Luo Yuan's case. Luo Yuan's request was not excessive at all, and was even very generous. She had no reason not to agree. Sunday and Luo Yuan stood on both sides of the battlefield. The referee was still the same referee as before. "The battle rules are 2v2, no problem, right?" Luo Yuan looked at Sunday and said 1v1 has too many chances. If the other party cheats and refuses to admit it, it will be troublesome, but he didn't want to waste too much time playing 3v3 or 6v6, so he chose the 2v2 battle rules. "No problem." Sunday naturally had no objection. "Then please get ready, the game begins." As soon as the referee finished speaking, both sides threw out the Pokeballs at the same time. "Go, Karakara. Go, Bulbasaur." Luo Yuan sent out Bulbasaur, and Sunday sent out Karakara with a white bone helmet on his head. Anyway, there was Steelix to support him, so Luo Yuan sent out Bulbasaur to gain experience. "Bulbasaur, use the Vine Whip." 2 Vine Whips shot out from behind Bulbasaur. Karakara, dodge, then use the Bone Boomerang. Chapter 65 Bulbasaur Evolution. Karakara, dodge, and use the Bone Boomerang. Hearing Sunday's command, Karakara evaded the whip with a backflip, and then threw the bone stick that he had been holding since he came out to Bulbasaur. The bone stick rotated at high speed, drew an arc in the air and hit Bulbasaur. At this time, Bulbasaur had difficulty moving because the whip was not retracted. Just when Bulbasaur was about to be hit, Bulbasaur, seed machine gun, aim at the bone, boomerang in the sky. A series of seeds shot into the sky. How could the seed machine gun hit the bone boomerang in the sky? This is crazy. It seems that Miss Sunday will win the first game. I think so too. It's a sure win. The students watching at the edge of the battlefield were excited. If Miss Sunday can beat this annoying guy, their Pokémon Academy can save some face. But is it possible? Luo Yuan never does anything risky. Under the incredulous expressions of the students watching, the seed machine gun fired by Bulbasaur accurately hit the bone boomerang in the sky. The seeds hit the bones with a crisp sound. Although many seeds were bounced off by the high-speed spinning bone boomerang at the beginning, as the bone boomerang got closer and closer to Bulbasaur, the resistance it encountered became greater and greater. Finally, the bone boomerang lost its power in the sky and was bounced aside by Bulbasaur's seed machine gun. Seeing this, Karakura was immediately anxious. Bones are very important to Karakura, and they are simply its second life. So it immediately ran towards the direction where the bones fell. Good opportunity, Bulbasaur, use the leaf blade. Seeds. Bulbasaur shouted and shot several leaf blades from its side. Karakura, who was running towards the bones in a hurry, was completely exposed to the attack range of the leaf blade. Karakura, block it with the bone stick. Karakura took several hits from the leaf blades and finally picked up the bones on the ground with satisfaction, waving the bone stick to deflect the remaining leaf blades. Bulbasaur, who used the seed machine gun and leaf blades in succession, was a little out of breath, and his offensive was paused. Karakura, use sword dance. Taking advantage of this time, Karakura waved the bone stick in his hand and used sword dance on the spot. It must be said that Sunday found a very good time. At this time, he let Karakura use sword dance, which was stuck at a critical time point, so that Luo Yuan could not take countermeasures in the first time. Karakura's momentum was visibly increasing, and Luo Yuan knew that he could not let Karakura continue like this. Bulbasaur, Sunlight Blaze. Luo Yuan directly ordered Bulbasaur. Sunlight Blaze. Luo Yuan has been training Bulbasaur. He wants it to learn this move. After the previous battle with Xiaoming, after a period of training, Bulbasaur finally learned this move. Seed. 1. Bulbasaur immediately retracted its body, and the bulb behind it suddenly expanded. A shining light gathered at the bulb behind Bulbasaur. Sunday never thought that Luo Yuan's Bulbasaur could use the move Sunflame. Shouldn't Sunflame be used after Bulbasaur evolves into Bulbasaur or even Bulbasaur? How high is the level of this Bulbasaur? Question mark? Stop Bulbasaur. Sunday hurriedly shouted to Karakura. As an excellent student in the Pokémon Academy, she knew very well how powerful the move Sunflame was. She must not let Bulbasaur use Sunflame, otherwise once it hits Karakura, her Karakura will definitely be killed instantly. Karakura immediately stopped the sword dance, and regardless of whether the bone stick could be retracted, it used the bone boomerang again. Whoosh, the bone boomerang flew out. But it was still a step too late. The next second, in a blinding flash, the sunlight flame gushed out from the bulb behind Bulbasaur, devouring the bone boomerang and Karakura. Because of the short charging time and Bulbasaur's own strength, the sunlight flame did not last long. But these few seconds were enough to kill Karakura. The sunlight flame dissipated, and only the slightly blackened Karakura remained in the field. Karakura has lost its ability to fight, and Bulbasaur wins. The referee announced the result of the game. Sunday bit his lip, said nothing, and silently took back Karakura. The students on the sidelines were even more silent. They began to think about a question, that is, can Miss Sunday really win? They originally thought that if Luo Yuan did not use Metagross, they would see the hope of victory, but they did not expect that it would still be an empty dream in the end. Wait a minute, look. Suddenly a student pointed to the field and shouted. Everyone looked up. They saw a ball of white light shining where Bulbasaur had been standing. That is, it's the light of evolution. Bulbasaur has evolved. The students of the Pokémon Academy looked at each other with a complicated mood. Luo Yuan was not surprised. Calculating the time, Bulbasaur should have evolved. In fact, if it is the main Pokémon of ordinary trainers, Bulbasaur should have evolved long ago. But Luo Yuan has too many Pokémon, and Bulbasaur has almost no chance to fight, so it has delayed its evolution until now. Sunday didn't know how she should feel about Bulbasaur's evolution. Should she be glad that her Karakura lost to a Bulbasaur that was about to evolve, or should she be angry that Bulbasaur stepped on her Karakura to evolve? Sunday thought in her heart and looked at Bulbasaur, whose evolution had reached the end in the field. The light faded, and the body became a whole circle larger. The bulb behind it bloomed into a flower bud and appeared in the field. After the evolution, Bulbasaur became more mature from its original cuteness, and its eyes became sharper and more imposing. Bulbasaur. Luo Yuan waved to Bulbasaur, and Bulbasaur immediately ran to Luo Yuan's side and rubbed Luo Yuan's palm with its head. After interacting for a while, Luo Yuan retracted his palm and looked up at Sunday, who was standing there awkwardly. Let's continue the battle. What's your second Pokémon? Sunday, who had been waiting for a long time, was full of resentment. She was determined to win and took out the Pokéball from her waist. This is my second Pokémon. Chapter 66, Flamahorse vs. Bulbasaur. My second Pokémon is this one. Sunday threw her Pokéball with all her strength. Bang, the Pokéball bounced off, and a Flamahorse with blazing flames all over its body appeared on the field. As soon as Flamahorse appeared, the temperature on the field suddenly rose. Even though he was standing far away from Flamahorse, Luo Yuan still felt a wave of heat coming towards him. Flamahorse, it's a bit difficult to deal with. Luo Yuan looked at the Flamahorse in front of him. This Flamahorse was only trained well, not excellent. If it was another Pokémon, Luo Yuan would certainly have many ways to win. But it would be a bit difficult to win this game with the newly evolved Bulbasaur. Come on, Miss Sunday. You must win the next game. Come on, Flamahorse, defeat Bulbasaur. Such a clear attribute restraint gave many Pokémon Academy students hope of victory. However, given Luo Yuan's strength, they did not say anything like this game is a sure win or you'll definitely win. It must be said that Luo Yuan's coming to challenge the school is still beneficial to the Pokémon Academy and these students in some ways. At least it taught them what humility is, and made them restrain their arrogance. No matter what, let's fight first. After thinking for a while, Luo Yuan decided to continue using Bulbasaur to fight. Isn't it just being restrained? It's not like he hasn't fought against the attributes before. Whether an excellent trainer can win never depends on the attributes. If he changes Pokémon when he encounters a reverse attribute, what kind of Pokémon trainer is he? Feeling Luo Yuan's fighting spirit, Bulbasaur also became more motivated. Sunday on the opposite side has been looking at Luo Yuan. When she saw this scene, her heart tightened. Luo Yuan was so confident. Could he be sure that he could defeat her with a reverse attribute? But there was not enough time for her to think too much. The referee's flag had fallen. The game begins. Bulbasaur, take the initiative and use the leaf blade. Bulbasaur shook his body and a large leaf blade shot at Flamahorse. The same leaf blade, before Bulbasaur evolved, could only fire 5 or 6 at a time, while Bulbasaur could fire more than 10 or 20 leaves at once. The sharp leaves shot in front of him, but Blazebrook didn't feel panic at all. Bulbasaur used the flame whirlpool. Flames spewed out of his mouth, and at the same time, the flames on Blazebrook's body rose steadily, turning into a wall of fire that swallowed all the leaf blades. Then the flames turned into a horizontal vortex of flames, and Blazebrook rushed towards Bulbasaur along the flame channel. Bulbasaur, get out of the way. Then use the Vine Whip to grab the stones on the ground and attack Blazebrook. It was obviously unrealistic to fight head on. Luo Yuan could guarantee that Blazebrook didn't need to attack Bulbasaur. As long as it got close to Bulbasaur, Bulbasaur would be burned by the flames on its body. Fortunately, there were many rubbles on the ground, created by the previous battle with Metagross. Bulbasaur grabbed the rocks on the ground with the Vine Whip, and then swung the Vine Whip to throw pieces of stones of different sizes at Blazebrook. Some were as big as a human head, and some were half the size of a human head. For a moment, it actually created the same effect as a falling rock attack. Moreover, Bulbasaur used all his strength when throwing these stones, and the power was only stronger than the falling rocks. Flamahorse was repelled by Bulbasaur's attack, and had to dodge everywhere. Flamahorse, spray fire. Since close combat was not good, Sunday decisively changed his strategy, and attacked from a distance. Flamahorse opened his mouth and spit out a jet of fire. The straight flame spread for more than 10 meters, from one end of the field to the other. Bulbasaur, get out of the way. Then use poison powder. Bulbasaur dodged left and right, and at the same time, the flower bud behind him suddenly sprayed a handful of poison powder. At this time, the wind direction was blowing from Bulbasaur's side to Flamahorse's side. The sky full of poison powder covered Flamahorse head on. Burn these poison powders. The poison powder, sleep powder and paralysis powder of grass type Pokémon are known as the 3 major troublemaking skills. Few trainers have not been poisoned by these 3 skills. Sunday has also been attacked before, so he is extremely cautious when facing poison powder. Flame Horse reduced the power of the jet flames, then changed the direction, and burned the poison powder in the sky with a fire. Before Sunday could breathe a sigh of relief, she looked up and found a scene that made her panic. It turned out that Luo Yuan took advantage of Bulbasaur to block the poison powder, while Flame Horse was secretly charging up to use Sun Flame. Luo Yuan smiled at the panicked Sunday from behind. This was exactly his tactic. He didn't expect the poison powder to cause damage to Flame Horse from the beginning. After all, the disadvantage of poison powder was too great. It would immediately burn into ashes when it encountered fire. In fact, even if Blaze Horse ignored the poison powder, by the time the poison powder landed on Blaze Horse, there would probably be very little left, and it would not reach the dose that would poison Blaze Horse. At most, it could cause some damage to Blaze Horse. However, Sunday's behavior of letting Blaze Horse burn up the poison powder gave him a chance. There are two ways for Bulbasaur to win this game. One is to crush Blaze Horse with numbers and use continuous moves to make Blaze Horse unable to fight back, but Bulbasaur obviously does not have this strength now. So there is only one way left, which is to kill Blaze Horse with one blow, and use one move with all your strength to get rid of Blaze Horse in one move. Sunlight Flame is the move Luo Yuan chose. Bulbasaur, use Jet Flame quickly, don't let Bulbasaur use Sunlight Flame. Sunday's order came late. Blaze Horse opened his mouth and spit out a flame. At this time, Bulbasaur also finished charging. A sunlight flame that was several times thicker than the sunlight flame used by Bulbasaur shot out. Jet Flame and Sunlight Flame collided in the air. Two equally hot energies continued to consume each other in mid-air. The stalemate lasted for several minutes, and both Pokémon used all their strength. Bulbasaur, work harder. Luo Yuan cheered Bulbasaur from behind. Hearing Luo Yuan's call, Bulbasaur recalled the happy times when Luo Yuan and it usually spent time together. With a grit of teeth, Sun Flame increased its strength, and Jet Flame retreated step by step. Seeing this, Flame Horse also hurriedly increased its strength. Jet Flame pushed back a little. The two energies increased at the same time, and the intersection seemed to have reached a critical point. Boom. The intersection of the two energies exploded, and a hot shock wave swept across the entire battlefield. Gravel flew, and Luo Yuan couldn't help but use his arms to block in front of him to prevent being scratched by sharp stones. When the shock wave disappeared, Luo Yuan put down his arms and looked at the scene in the field. Who won? Chapter 67, Deadleaf City. Who won? Is it Miss Sunday? Hurry and take a look. The students of the Pokémon Academy at the edge of the field were more anxious than Sunday and Luo Yuan, who were the parties involved. After the shock wave swept through, they immediately put down their arms and looked at the field. The victory or defeat between Bulbasaur and Flamahorse is closely related to their future reputation. At this time, the two Pokémon were not in a good condition. The damage of the shockwave was indiscriminate, so both Pokémon were seriously injured. However, it seemed that the damage to Bulbasaur was more serious. After all, the shockwaves created by Sun Flame and Jet Flame were hot, which was a big test for the grass-attributed Bulbasaur. Did Miss Sunday win? Bulbasaur was more seriously injured. We won. Bulbasaur in this situation will definitely not be able to beat Flamahorse. Bulbasaur was so seriously injured that, if it continued to fight, its flexibility would definitely be greatly reduced. It would be impossible for it to dodge Flamahorse's attack like it did just now. Just when many students of the Pokémon Academy were preparing to celebrate the victory of the battle. Bang! Under everyone's gaze, Flame slowly fell to the ground and fainted. The referee, who was ready to announce Flame's victory, was stunned on the spot. He looked at Flame, who was lying on the ground, and Bulbasaur, who was seriously injured, but still standing there, and didn't say a word for a long time. It took him a long time to react. Flame lost the ability to fight. Bulbasaur won, so the winner of this battle is Luo Yuan. Lost. Sunday sighed and took back Flame. To be honest, she was very frustrated in this fight. Flame had an attribute advantage, but Flame was always trapped in the rhythm of Bulbasaur throughout the battle. Even the strongest big character explosion was useless, and was inexplicably taken away by Sunshine Flame. She carefully reviewed the previous battle and found that she was using poison powder when Bulbasaur used it. When she ordered Flame to return to defense, she lost the rhythm of the whole game. This was a real difference of one thought. If she had not chosen to return to defense, but chose to ignore the poison powder and continue to attack Bulbasaur, then she would have won the game. However, she did not regret it too much. This is the charm of Pokémon fighting. Every small decision and every different choice will determine the outcome of the battle. Bulbasaur, come back, you did a good job. Luo Yuan also took back the severely injured Bulbasaur. At the same time, the system prompt sounded in his mind. Host defeated Utoside. Congratulations to the host for winning the bronze lottery number *1. There is no rush for the lottery. He looked up at C-Day. Miss C-Day, it seems that I won this game. You won. According to the agreement, our Pokémon Academy will publish an apology article in the Kanto newspaper. C-Day said. She is willing to accept the loss of the bet. She, Utoside, did what she said. The students of the Pokémon Academy around opened their mouths, but did not say the last word. They did lose. They could not let Miss C-Day cheat. Luo Yuan did not doubt whether C-Day could do these things. According to his understanding, this Pokémon Academy is a private academy. The Uto family, to which Shengde belongs, holds a considerable share in the school and is the largest board member of the Pokémon Academy. She can still do this little thing. In that case, I'll take my leave. Since everything has been resolved, Luo Yuan doesn't want to stay any longer in this place that brings him bad memories. After saying that, he turned around and left. The students of the Pokémon Academy, who originally thought they would be humiliated, felt incredible when they saw Luo Yuan leave so decisively. They judged others by themselves. If they won the game, they would definitely laugh at Luo Yuan. So they thought that if Luo Yuan won the game, he would definitely humiliate them. Now Luo Yuan didn't humiliate them. This contrast made them feel extremely ashamed. Shengde stood where she was. Because of her identity, no one dared to condemn her for losing the game. Her mood at this time was also very complicated. Looking at Luo Yuan's back, she secretly made a decision in her heart that she must rectify the atmosphere of the Pokémon Academy and must not let the school spirit of the Pokémon Academy continue to be so corrupt. As the sun sets, Luo Yuan disappears into the forest. Vermilion City is one of the most important port cities in the entire Kanto region. It is the shipping hub of the entire Kanto region and has the largest deep water port in the entire Kanto region. At least hundreds of thousands of tons of cargo are loaded and unloaded here every day. They are either sent from Hoenn and over and other regions to Kanto, or from Kanto to other regions. After several days of traveling, Luo Yuan finally arrived at Vermilion City. It's completely different from what I imagined. Looking at the prosperous Vermilion City in front of him, the scene was completely different from what he had imagined in his mind. An uncle with a fishing rod on his back and a bucket in his hand saw Luo Yuan's appearance and smiled. Young man, this is your first time in Vermilion City. Isn't it completely different from what you imagined? It's not quite the same as I imagined. He imagined that Vermilion City should be more of a small city that relies on passenger transport for its livelihood, but what he saw now was completely different from what he imagined. In fact, most people have this misunderstanding. After all, the name of Vermilion City sounds like a place of desolation and decline, so many people think that Vermilion City is a backward and declining city. But in fact, Vermilion City has become more and more prosperous due to the recent expansion of the Silph Company and the discovery of various rare minerals. The fishing uncle spoke with a proud tone, as if he was proud of being born in Vermilion City. Luo Yuan smiled, but he didn't feel anything strange. Everyone would think that the city where he was born is the best. After all, it is his hometown. So uncle, do you know what interesting places are there in Vermilion City? I just want to see it. There are many interesting places, but I personally think that the most fun place is a seaside resort in Vermilion City, where you can see many beautiful women. They are all very beautiful. The uncle showed a look that all men understand. Ahem, uncle, what are you talking about? I'm still young, I don't understand. Luo Yuan felt that the topic was getting more and more off topic. So he quickly said goodbye to the fishing uncle and walked towards the Pokémon Center in Vermilion City that he had inquired about. His Bulbasaur was still injured, although he had applied medicine to it and placed it in a Pokéball to prevent the injury from getting worse. It was still better to treat it as soon as possible. Chapter 68 Marzish's Changes. Vermilion City Pokémon Center. At this time, the originally spacious Pokémon Center was overcrowded. A large group of Pokémon trainers were anxiously waiting in the Pokémon Hall. What's going on? Why are there so many people? Luo Yuan saw the scene in front of him. If he hadn't seen Miss Joy standing at the front desk to process the procedures for a trainer, he would have almost suspected that he had gone to the wrong place. Although there were many people in the Pokémon Center, there were not many people in line, and it was soon Luo Yuan's turn. Hello, what service do you need? Miss Joy asked with a smile that was always so gentle and healing. Treat Pokémon. Luo Yuan handed the Pokéball containing Bulbasaur to Joy. Okay. Joy took the Pokéball, put it on the machine to scan it, and immediately showed an angry look on his face. Too much. Huh? What's too much? Luo Yuan was a little confused. Why is it too much? Sorry, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Mr. Marzishi, the gym trainer of the Vermilion Gym. Miss Joy thought Luo Yuan misunderstood that she was talking about him and quickly explained. Your Pokémon was also injured by Mr. Marzishi, right? How did his Pokémon become the one injured by Marzishi? He just arrived in Vermilion City. Joy saw Luo Yuan's expression and knew that she had misunderstood and immediately showed an embarrassed expression. Sorry, when I saw your Pokémon, I thought you were also defeated by Mr. Marzishi when you challenged the gym. I haven't even started challenging the gym yet, and you curse me to lose the game. Is this really okay? However, Joy obviously didn't mean it, so Luo Yuan didn't care about it. I know you are talking about Marzishi, but how can you think that Marzishi defeated me? Marzishi is the gym trainer of the Vermilion Gym in Vermilion City and is good at using electrical Pokémon. His signature Pokémon are Raichu, Naughty Egg, 3-in-1 Magneto and Electivire. At the same time, he is also the target that Luo Yuan came to Vermilion City to prepare to challenge. Hearing Luo Yuan's question, Joy arranged treatment and award for Bulbasaur while answering. It's like this. Recently, many trainers have come to Vermilion City to challenge the Vermilion Gym. In the past, gym trainers would not use their full strength when fighting newcomers. But Mr. Marzishi of the Vermilion Gym has recently, for some unknown reason, severely injured many new trainers' Pokémon. There have been 7 or 8 today alone. The injuries on your Pokémon are very similar to those of those Pokémon, so I mistakenly thought that you were also a trainer defeated by Mr. Marzishi. At this point, Joy expressed his apologies to Luo Yuan again. Marzishi severely injured the new trainer's Pokémon. Luo Yuan remembered that before he traveled through time, he seemed to have seen this plot in anime. But the current situation seems to be much more serious than in the anime. Luo Yuan looked at the anxiously waiting trainers in the hall. There were as many as 20 or 30 of them. He pointed at these trainers and asked Joy, are these all the same? Most of them are. There are many Pokémon trainers who are still in danger. It's really too much. Joy was indignant and very angry when he said this. Gym trainers are supposed to be the ones who assess new trainers and provide guidance to them. Marzish's actions made Joy, who loves Pokémon from the bottom of his heart, very angry. I always feel that there is something wrong here. Luo Yuan fell into deep thought. When he watched the anime before crossing over, he only thought that Marzishi was an arrogant person. But after crossing over, Luo Yuan looked more deeply into some unreasonable aspects of the Pokémon world and had a different view. Take Marzish's case for example. It is very abnormal that Marzishi severely injured all the trainers he challenged in the future. As a gym trainer, if Marzishi always treats new trainers so harshly and severely injures every challenger, then there will be no trainers to challenge the Vermilion Gym. And even if he is determined to do so, the league will never allow such a thing to happen. After all, the original intention of setting up a gym is to train and cultivate Pokémon trainers, not to strike and kill Pokémon trainers. Once reported by a trainer, the league prosecutor will come to investigate. Marzishi has been a gym trainer for so long that he would not be ignorant of this. Luo Yuan keenly smelled something unusual from this. He looked up at Joey. Masashi has been a gym trainer for a long time, right? Has he become like this recently? Joey thought for a moment. It has been 5 or 6 years. He was fine before. I don't know why he suddenly became like this now. Hearing Joey's answer, Luo Yuan was more certain that something must have gone wrong with Masashi. Just as Luo Yuan was thinking, a look of hesitation flashed in Joey's eyes. Are you the Pokémon trainer who came to challenge the Vermilion Gym? Miss Joey, please tell me what you have to say. Luo Yuan said. He felt that Joey might have something to tell him. It's like this. Can I ask you for a favor? When you go to challenge the Vermilion Gym, please tell Mr. Masashi not to use such heavy hands again. With so many Pokémon injured, our Pokémon Center can no longer accommodate them. Miss Joy said worriedly. At present, the staff of our Pokémon Center is very tight. If this continues, I'm afraid that our Pokémon Center will not have spare staff to treat those injured Pokémon. Is that so? I see. I will tell him when I go to the Vermilion Gym. On behalf of the Vermilion City Pokémon Center, I would like to thank you. It's just a small favor. Luo Yuan waved his hand. I'll leave Bulbasaur to you. It was just a casual mention, and even if Joy didn't say it, he would investigate what happened to Masashi and why his temperament suddenly changed. Random task released. Investigate what happened to Masashi. Completion reward. Silver lottery number *1. The system sounded a prompt at the right time. Silver level reward. I think this task is interesting. Obviously, what happened to Masashi was not simple. As his strength increased, the rewards for low difficulty tasks became lower and lower. Such a simple task would definitely not be a silver level reward. Moreover, Luo Yuan suddenly remembered that he seemed to have missed a bronze prize in the last draw. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69. Deadleaf Gym. System. Draw a lottery. Luo Yuan found an empty bench in a park not far from the Pokémon Center and sat down. He said to the system in his heart. However, he did not have much expectation for the result of this lottery. It has been proved that only the silver lottery has the chance to draw good things, and it is not necessarily guaranteed to be useful to oneself. The probability of drawing useful things in the bronze lottery is too low. Please wait during the lottery. Congratulations to the host for winning the item disguise mask. In the usual mechanical sound of the system, a mask that feels soft and light appears in Luo Yuan's hand. Disguise mask? It sounds good. Hearing the name of the disguise mask mentioned by the system, Luo Yuan roughly guessed the use of this thing. It should be a mask used to hide the identity. System, how do I use this thing? Luo Yuan asked the system in his heart. You have new messages. Do you want to check? The system did not answer, but directly sent a message to Luo Yuan's brain. Receive. Choosing to receive, Luo Yuan found that the message transmitted to him by the system was the instruction manual of this mask. Dip it in water. Wear it on your face and press the sensor on your temple. Select the target you want to disguise yourself as. After quickly browsing the contents of the manual, Luo Yuan suddenly realized that the mask he had drawn was not what he had imagined. This mask can actually automatically change its shape according to the selected object. In other words, as long as Luo Yuan wants to disguise himself as someone, he only needs to put on the mask and scan the target's appearance according to the steps given in the manual, and he can disguise his face to look like the other person. While thinking, Luo Yuan took out a water bottle from his backpack, applied it evenly on the inside according to the steps given by the system, and stuck it on his face. The thin mask was cold to the touch. Luo Yuan aimed at a passerby in the distance and pressed a slightly raised area on his temple. A buzzing feeling of contraction and squeezing came over him. He only felt that the muscles on his face were squeezed and pulled by the mask. He took out a mirror and looked at himself. He had completely turned into the person he had just seen. If it weren't for the fact that the clothes were still his original clothes, they would be exactly the same. Is it so powerful? Luo Yuan immediately felt the power of this mask. This means that he will have many more identities to use in the future. Especially now that he has made a big grudge with Team Rocket. Maybe one day when Team Rocket boss Sakaki is free and thinks of him, he will come to trouble him. With this mask, as long as he walks around the street and copies the appearance of a random person, Team Rocket will never be able to catch up with him. Awesome, my system. Luo Yuan praised the system in his heart. Of course, it's also because I'm lucky. He took off the mask happily and put it in his backpack. Luo Yuan walked towards the direction of the Vermilion Gym. The Vermilion Gym is located in the south of Vermilion City near the sea. The sign is very eye-catching. There is also a huge lightning sign on it, indicating that the Vermilion Gym is an electrical gym. It looks very violent. From the appearance, it can be seen that the style of the entire Vermilion Gym is bold and rough. Combined with Luo Yuan's understanding of the gym trainer Mazishi, the image of the Vermilion Gym in his mind is more three-dimensional. There was no one queuing at the entrance of the gym, and it seemed deserted, which was completely different from the Nabi Gym and Hulan Gym that he had challenged before. When he opened the door, there was already a receptionist waiting at the door. "Hello, I'm here to challenge the trainer of the gym," Luo Yuan said. The receptionist was stunned when he saw Luo Yuan, and an unknown meaning flashed in his eyes. Because he had guessed that there was something wrong with the Vermilion Gym before coming, Luo Yuan keenly noticed the change in the receptionist's expression. He pretended to be puzzled and asked, "What's wrong? Is there something on my face?" The receptionist quickly reacted to Luo Yuan's words, smiled to cover up, and said to Luo Yuan, "Sorry, I was a little distracted just now. Please follow me." Following behind the receptionist, Luo Yuan's eyes were a little deep. If he was not mistaken, the receptionist just now should have recognized him. Before, he was not sure whether there was a problem with the Vermilion Gym, but now he can be sure that there must be a problem with the Vermilion Gym. Among the people in this world who he had not met, the only ones who could recognize him, except for the prosecutors and the Alliance prosecutor system, were the Rocket team, who had a grudge against him. The Vermilion Gym is related to the Rocket team. This thought flashed through his mind, and he had already come to the Vermilion Gym's battle venue under the guidance of the receptionist. On the field, a trainer was fighting with Mazishi. The battle had obviously been going on for a while. The Pokémon used by both sides were Raichu and Charmeleon, and the battle was very intense. Mazishi has the upper hand, and the trainer using Charmeleon is in trouble. Luo Yuan took a quick glance and quickly judged the situation on the field. Raichu, 100,000 volts. Mazishi, who had a golden hedgehog hair and wore a camouflaged combat uniform, loudly commanded Raichu to attack the trainer on the opposite side. Charmeleon, get out of the way, use jet flame. Flame and lightning collided in the air, and the thick jet flame was torn in the middle by Charmeleon. 100,000 volts hit Charmeleon's body, and Charmeleon let out a cry of pain. The winner is determined, Luo Yuan said inwardly. Charmeleon could barely maintain a balance with Raichu, but now that it was hit by 100,000 volts, it would definitely not be a match for Raichu. As expected, Charmeleon, paralyzed by the 100,000 volt electric shock, became slow in its movements. Raichu seized the opportunity and knocked it unconscious with a million-ton flying kick, making it incapable of fighting. Charmeleon has lost its ability to fight. Raichu wins, so the winner is the gym trainer Mr. Mazishi. The referee shouted. Damn it. Charmeleon's trainer looked at Charmeleon, who had fallen to the ground and lost his ability to fight, and pounded the ground hard. Mazishi laughed. Baby, your Pokémon still doesn't look strong enough. You can't get a badge if you're so weak. It was just a mistake this time. I'll come again next time. The trainer, who was called Baby, had a very ugly face. He said something harsh and then left in a hurry. When he left, he was still mumbling something about why the Vermilion Gym was suddenly so difficult to beat, and it was different from the past. Luo Yuan listened to the Charmeleon trainer's mumbling and thought about it. While he was thinking, Mazishi, who was standing on the battlefield, spoke. Young man over there, are you here to challenge the Vermilion Gym as well? Chapter 70 Raichu vs Steelix. Luo Yuan raised his head immediately after being called. When Mazishi saw Luo Yuan, his pupils shrank, but he reacted quickly. He was not stunned like the receptionist before, but covered it up with a big laugh. Baby, are you here to challenge the Vermilion Leaf Gym as well? Luo Yuan looked at Mazishi deeply. He was sure that he was not mistaken just now, and Mazishi also knew him. Moreover, there were also big problems in the previous battle. From Luo Yuan's point of view, the strength of the trainer who just fought with Mazishi should have been enough to get the badge. Generally, the trainers of the gym would let the challenger pass the challenge. After all, the original intention of the Alliance to set up the gym was to test the trainers, not to really let the gym trainers fight these new trainers. But Mazishi still let Raichu defeat the trainer. It seems that there is a big problem between Mazishi and the Vermilion Leaf Gym. Thoughts turned in his mind. However, Luo Yuan remained calm on the surface, pretending to be a trainer who was very confident in himself and said, "Yes, I'm here to challenge the Vermilion Gym, but I don't agree with what you said about baby. I'm Luo Yuan from Crimson City." As Luo Yuan said this, he observed the expressions of Mazishi and the gym staff. As expected, he found that Mazishi and other people in the gym had an unnatural look on their faces when they heard Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan felt that things were getting more and more interesting. He walked to the position where the Charmeleon trainer stood before and said without any politeness, "Can we start the challenge now? Mr. Mazishi, do you want to take a break?" Mazishi looked at Luo Yuan, who was already holding the Pokeball in his hand and ready to fight, and didn't know what to say. "Can you be a little sincere when you are being polite? Do you look like you want me to take a break? But no matter how angry you are, your character cannot collapse." His current identity is a gym trainer, and he should be generous when facing challenges. Mazishi suppressed his dissatisfaction and smiled heartily. "Of course. My Raichu can fight at any time. The league has a rule that gym trainers cannot refuse the challenge of challengers without special reasons. If the challenger is rejected, he can call the league complaint hotline to file a complaint. Then let's start now," Luo Yuan said. The referee next to him saw that the gym owner and the challenger had reached an agreement and immediately stood on the referee's seat. The game begins. The two sides are Mr. Mazishi, the gym trainer of the Vermilion Gym, and Luo Yuan from the Light Red City. Both players, please get ready. Luo Yuan and Mazishi clench the Pokeballs in their hands. The game begins. Go, Raichu. Mazishi still sent out his Raichu. Luo Yuan raised his head and showed a meaningful smile to Mazishi. Go, Steelix. Without any temptation or extra fancy routines, Luo Yuan immediately released Steelix, one of his two strongest Pokémon. Roar. The huge body of Steelix hit the ground, causing the entire Deadleaf Gym to tremble slightly. A roar made the battlefield, which was made of steel bars, emit a buzzing sound. "Let me introduce you. This is my Steelix." Luo Yuan smiled and said, "I think your Raichu looks more like a baby." Mazishi heard Luo Yuan's words, looked at his Raichu, and then looked at Steelix, which was 5 or 6 times taller than Raichu, and his face looked very bad. "Raichu." Mazishi shouted at his Raichu. Raichu turned his head to look at Mazishi and nodded, without any fear on his face. "Then go ahead, Raichu, 100,000 volts." Receiving Mazishi's order, Raichu used his legs to jump up, and 2 thick electric currents burst out of his cheeks, converging in midair and slashing at the Steelix in front. Although being big has its advantages, it also has disadvantages. One of them is that when facing this kind of attack, it is difficult for a huge body to dodge the attack. Mazishi took advantage of this and prepared to let Raichu use its flexibility to defeat Steelix. Steel Snake, use hold. However, facing the 100,000 volts, Luo Yuan was not panicked at all. At the command, Steel Snake immediately placed its tail in front of its body, and a green fluorescent light flashed across its body surface. The 100,000 volts struck, but was easily blocked by the thin green protective field. Then Steel Snake swung its tail and smashed the steel tail towards Raichu. Boom. With a loud bang, a big pit was smashed into the ground where Steel Snake's tail fell, and gravel flew. In the smoke, Raichu jumped out from inside. Obviously, the steel tail just now did not hit Raichu. Steel Snake's attack was still too clumsy. Raichu, continue to use 100,000 volts. Mazishi persevered. The chance of success of holding this move was high only the first time it was used. The success rate would decrease as time went on. Mazishi did not believe that Luo Yuan's Steel Snake could successfully use hold to block Raichu's 100,000 volts every time. Raichu. Another golden arc flashed by. Steel Snake, keep using it. The tail was placed in front of the body again, and the 100,000 volts were blocked again. However, unlike before, this time Steel Snake's subsequent attack did not use the steel tail, but used the rock seal. Large rocks fell from the sky, and Raichu hurriedly dodged, shuttling back and forth among the falling rocks, and there were dangers. Steel Snake took this opportunity to swim forward, and use his hard head to hit Raichu. In a flash, a white light flashed on Raichu's body, and it accelerated suddenly, narrowly avoiding the attack of Steel Snake. Steel Snake plunged into the ground, and there was another bang. The ground exploded, and the rubble hit Raichu's not so slender body, causing Raichu to scream in pain. Raichu, hold on, and use thunder on Steel Snake now. A stream of electricity rushed straight to the ceiling, and condensed a small cloud on the ceiling. The sound of electric arcs rang out, and Luo Yuan was also shocked. There is such a thing. He really didn't know that thunder could be used indoors before. Haha, let me show you Raichu's strength. Masashi laughed loudly. He felt very relieved when he saw Luo Yuan's surprised expression. Haha. Luo Yuan only said 2 words to him. Did he really think he was a fool? He didn't know how to dodge the thunder that obviously needed to charge up, and he stood here for you to hit him. Steel Snake, dig a hole. I hide underground, and I don't believe you can still hit me. With the rumbling sound of digging, Steelix quickly disappeared from the field, leaving only a dark hole and a rumbling sound coming from it. Masashi's face turned black, and then white. Black because the thunder couldn't hit. White because Steelix dug a hole like this. How much money would he have to spend to repair the gym? Chapter 71 Naughty Bullet. Rumbling sounds continued to come from underground, and Masashi's heart was bleeding. Although the Alliance allocates funds to each gym every year for the maintenance of the gym and the salaries of gym trainers, the amount of funds is limited. For a violent fighting style like Masashi, the battlefield must be repaired in almost every game. The gym's funds are already stretched. Now that Steelix is digging holes like this, I wonder what the gym's underground will look like. Of course, he will not do this to all challengers who use the digging trick. For example, he will not be so fierce when Pokémon like Diglett and Sandshrew use digging holes. It's really that Steelix is too big. Maybe the gym needs to be overhauled. Luo Yuan didn't know what Masashi was thinking, or even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Anyway, it wasn't his money. Steelix swam freely in the underground of the Vermilion Gym. It must be said that the construction quality of the Vermilion Gym is really good, and it didn't collapse under such circumstances. At this time, Raichu was at a loss, because Steelix had lost its target after entering the ground. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Steelix, Ironhead skill. Luo Yuan gave an order, and Steelix suddenly jumped out from the ground, and its huge head suddenly lifted Raichu up. Sudden and heavy, Raichu's face was clearly confused, and of course mixed with the pain of being hit by a huge force. Raichu subconsciously used 100,000 volts, but the effect of 100,000 volts falling on Steelix was really not very good. Raichu. Masashi hurriedly shouted, get out of the way. As an excellent gym trainer, Masashi was sure that Steelix's Ironhead skill was just the beginning of the attack. It was okay to bear the damage of Ironhead skill, but the subsequent attacks must be avoided, otherwise it would be dangerous. The idea was good, but the reality was cruel. Raichu was knocked into the sky by Steelix, and his limbs were suspended in the air. There was no point of support at all, and it was difficult to move, let alone avoid Steelix's attack. Steelix didn't give Raichu any chance. It turned around and swept his tail, knocking Raichu to the ground. 2 consecutive heavy blows. If Raichu was still conscious when it was attacked by Ironhead Kung Fu before, it was stunned now. Its body was smashed to the ground, and Raichu's brain was in chaos except for the feedback of pain. Steelix, Mount A is pressing down. Boom. Boom. With a loud bang, accompanied by the huge body of Steelix pressing down, Masashi's voice of shouting Raichu's name suddenly stopped. Looking at Raichu, who was pressed under Steelix and motionless, Masashi opened his mouth and couldn't say a word. His brain was confused now. It was killed just like that. He couldn't believe it. Raichu, who he relied on as the main force, was defeated in just a few encounters. With a glimmer of luck, he cast his eyes on Steelix. At Luo Yuan's signal, Steelix moved his body away, revealing the flattened, unconscious Raichu below. Gurgle. The student of the Withered Leaf Gym who was the referee swallowed his saliva. It was the first time he saw a challenger so fierce that he defeated the gym leader who seemed to him to be omnipotent. Luo Yuan, who was standing next to him, didn't hear the referee's voice for a long time. He turned his head and looked at him, urging him, announce the result of the game. Oh, okay. The referee immediately reacted after Luo Yuan's reminder. Raichu has lost his ability to fight. Raichu was in that state, and even if the referee wanted to favor Mazishi, he couldn't do it. Mr. Mazishi, it seems that my Steelix is more powerful. Luo Yuan raised his lips slightly. Luo Yuan is still upset about Mazishi calling him baby. He is a person who holds grudges. He has just recorded Mazishi in his little notebook. Mazishi couldn't hold his face anymore and frowned. Baby, don't be too proud. It's not worth showing off to win a game by relying on attribute restraint. Steelix, which has the ground attribute, severely restrains Raichu. Mazishi is looking for an excuse for losing the game. Haha. You are a gym trainer. You are so shameless to say such a thing. Luo Yuan looked at Mazishi like this. Mazishi obviously knew that he had said something wrong just now, and being stared at by Luo Yuan, he threw out his second Pokémon in anger. Go, naughty egg. With a white light, a huge spherical Pokémon with white on top and red on the bottom appeared in the field, looking very ostentatious. Naughty egg, a dangerous Pokémon that will use self-destruction to have fun when bored. When Luo Yuan saw this Pokémon, his face became serious, and he was a little more cautious than before. It's not that he was afraid of Mazishi, but Naughty Bullet was really famous in the entire Pokémon world. I don't know how many trainers have suffered from the explosion of Naughty Bullet in the wild. Luo Yuan didn't want to repeat their mistakes. Seeing the change in Luo Yuan's face, Mazishi breathed a sigh of relief and finally saved a little face. Next, I have to find a way to win this round, Mazishi said in his heart. Mazishi was very confident about this battle. Naughtydon was very fast, and with the Big Bang, a move that would kill both parties, it would at least be a draw. It would be difficult for him to lose this game. Mazishi was thinking about tactics against Steelix, but Luo Yuan would not give him time to think. Steelix, charge. Rockfall. Roar. Steelix's already scary face showed a ferocious smile, and its body swam quickly. At the same time, its tail swept, and a large number of rocks rained down on Naughtydon. His train of thought was interrupted, but Mazishi did not hesitate at all. Naughtydon, dodge, and use Sonic Boom. Hearing Mazishi's words, Naughtydon did not show any weakness. His body suddenly flashed with electric arcs, and vibrated at high speed. While flashing to the side, an invisible shockwave shot towards Steelix. The Sonic Boom was very scary, but Luo Yuan, who was very familiar with Pokemon's moves, knew that the damage of this move was not high, and it was just a show. He waved at Steelix. Steelco, use Harden. A white light flashed across the surface of the body, and Steelco smashed the shockwave head on. However, it was impossible to continue attacking the Naughty Bullet. The speed of the Naughty Bullet was very fast, and it rolled to the corner of the field in the blink of an eye. Steelco turned around and asked Luo Yuan what to do next. Faced with a situation where the opponent was faster than itself, Steelco was a little undecided. Chapter 72 Big Bang. Luo Yuan had no good solution for this situation. Luo Yuan looked at the bulky body of Steelix, and then looked at the Naughty Bullet that kept rolling around beside him and moving very gracefully, and felt a little troublesome. He now saw clearly what Mazishi was planning. Mazishi wanted to use the speed advantage of Naughty Bullet to kite Steelix. Because the Pokémon was Naughty Bullet, with the trump card of Big Bang, Mazishi was much more relaxed when commanding than when commanding Raichu before. He looked like he would blow it up if he couldn't beat it, which made Luo Yuan's teeth itch. Fortunately, I'm not without a solution. After Luo Yuan went through the skills that Steelix knew in his mind, a smile immediately appeared on his face. Steelix, use body lightness. Hearing this, a white light flashed on Steelix's body. It seemed that there was no change, but it seemed to have changed when he looked closely. Of course, Steelix's body had changed, but this change could not be seen from the outside, but was reflected in the weight. Lightweight, as the name implies, is a Pokémon that makes the body lighter and increases speed. It is a Steel-type acceleration move. Only some Steel-type Pokémon, including Steelix, and a few Rock-type Pokémon, such as Rhyhorn, can use this move. Each use in the game can reduce the weight of the Pokémon by 100 kilograms, and the maximum weight can even be reduced to 0.1 kilograms. It can greatly increase the speed without changing the strength, which can be said to be very abnormal. Luo Yuan does not need to be so extreme now. After all, many of Steelix's moves still need to rely on the weight of the body to perform. But even if only a part of the body weight is reduced, Steelix's speed will be greatly improved. Are you fast? Luo Yuan looked at the Steelix, whose speed suddenly increased in the field and chased Naughty Bull everywhere, and Masashi, whose face was uglier than when Raichu was defeated, and a bright smile appeared on his face. Especially when he saw Steelix rub Naughty Bull's body several times and left several scars on Naughty Bull, he was even more pleased. Damn it. Seeing this, Masashi's face darkened, but he didn't plan to use the Big Bang until the last moment. He hadn't given up the idea of defeating Steelix. Naughty Egg, high-speed stars, while commanding Naughty Bullet to shoot a large number of high-speed stars at Steelix. Naughty Egg used Sonic Boom to attack Steelix again. Although it lost the advantage of speed, it could still barely deal with Steelix with the flexibility of its spherical body. Steelix, don't give it a chance to deal with it. Use Dragon Breath. That's right, Dragon Breath. Steelix can also use Dragon-type skills. With a roar, Steelix spewed out a Dragon Breath from its mouth and shot it in the direction of Naughty Bullet. Naughty Bullet was used to Steelix using its body to fight it, and when Steelix suddenly spewed out a Dragon Breath, it was stunned. Just because of this, it failed to dodge Steelix's Dragon Breath attack in time. As an electric-type Pokémon, the paralysis effect of Dragon Breath has no effect on Naughty Bullet, but the damage that should be caused is completely reflected on Naughty Bullet. Naughty Bullet showed a painful expression on his face, and the facial features on the surface of the sphere were twisted and tangled together. Naughty Bullet, Masashi in the distance, looked over here nervously, his expression solemn, his eyes fixed on the movements of Steelix. As long as there was something wrong, he planned to let Naughty Bullet use Big Explosion directly, attack, or wait for a while. Luo Yuan glanced at Masashi's face, and he could probably grasp Masashi's thoughts. If he continued to attack, Masashi would obviously directly order Naughty Bullet to use Big Explosion. Retreating would naturally avoid it, but it would also lead to missing the opportunity to kill Naughty Bullet and dragging this battle into a long and stinky war of attrition. He made a decision in just 1 second. Steelix, Steel Tail. However, while shouting the command, he conveyed the real order to Steelix through telekinesis. Pretend to use Steel Tail on the surface, and then directly use Hold. Luo Yuan was gambling. He bet that Masashi would choose to let Naughty Bullet self-destruct as soon as he heard his order. This operation may sound long, but it actually took Luo Yuan only a few seconds to think and give the order to Steelix. Whoosh! Steelix's tail swept forward. Seeing this, Masashi could not care about anything else and shouted directly, Naughty Bullet, dodge, and then use Big Explosion. Masashi, who made the decision, was not so entangled, and breathed a sigh of relief. If we can't win, then we can't win. It's not bad to die together. At least we can get rid of one of this kid's Pokémon. Masashi thought to himself. The Pokémon he used was an electric Pokémon. It was not easy to deal with a Pokémon with ground attributes like Steelix. He believed that, as long as Steelix was killed, the next battle would be very easy. As for whether Naughty Bullet could kill Steelix, he was not worried at all. First, his Naughty Bullet was so high in level, and second, the two Pokémon were so close, there was absolutely no possibility that it could not be killed. Naughty Bullet's body quickly flashed backwards. Just as a dazzling white light flashed on Naughty Bullet's body, Masashi's pupils suddenly shrank. He saw that the tail that was originally sweeping towards Naughty Bullet did not sweep towards Naughty Bullet, but turned around and rolled across in front of him. Then the familiar light green light lit up on the big steel snake. Damn, I was deceived. It was to hold on. Masashi roared in his heart. Naughty Bullet, stop. He hurriedly yelled at Naughty Bullet. But at this moment, Naughty Bullet had fallen into a self-destructing state. How could he hear his words? The white light became more and more dazzling, and Naughty Bullet in the field almost turned into a small sun. Covering his eyes, Luo Yuan only heard a rumble. A huge explosion accompanied by a wave of air washed over his body. It exploded. Luo Yuan looked at the smoke-filled battlefield. The smoke dissipated, and Naughty Bullet, who was charred all over and lost his combat ability, lay in the middle of a big pit. It really exploded. Luo Yuan showed a satisfied expression on his face. Then he looked at Steelix. Except for a little blackening on the surface of his body, it didn't seem to have suffered any damage. It's still amazing that he can defend this move. While sighing at the amazing defense, Luo Yuan felt happy while looking at Marzish's ugly face. I told you to call me baby. Luo Yuan just holds grudges like this. The students of the Withered Leaf Gym who were watching the battle nearby saw the gym leader lose again, and their surprise was beyond words. Naughty Bullet loses his ability to fight. Steelix wins. Chapter 73 Tunnel. We won again. The students of the Vermilion Leaf Gym who were watching the scene thought to themselves as they looked at the Steelix standing tall in the field. The whole gym was in a dead silence. Everyone looked at each other, and finally their eyes fell on Marzishi. It seemed that they were waiting for something. The atmosphere of the whole gym looked very strange. Marzishi felt the gazes of many people, calmed down his defeated mood, looked at Luo Yuan deeply, and was a little eager to make a move. Luo Yuan also narrowed his eyes at this scene. From the beginning, he felt that something was wrong with the Vermilion Leaf Gym. In this situation, could Marzishi finally not bear it? He wanted to see what secrets the Vermilion Leaf Gym was hiding. Luo Yuan was skilled and courageous, and he was not afraid of this situation. But just when Marzishi was about to make a decision, bang, the door of the gym was pushed open, and a trainer pushed the door open and walked in, breaking the weird atmosphere. Everyone's eyes immediately moved to the trainer who pushed the door open. So many eyes were focused on one person at the same time, and the trainer trembled all over. He asked tremblingly, am I here at the wrong time? Being stared at by so many people, he was under great pressure. Yes, it's really the wrong time. Luo Yuan thought to himself. He looked at Marzishi. At this time, Marzishi had suppressed the impulse in his heart and turned back into the rough and old gym trainer. If he came later, he would know what the secret hidden in the Withered Leaf Gym is. Unfortunately, Marzishi is now scared. Come on, let's continue, Marzishi said. As he spoke, he threw out the third Pokémon. Unlike Raichu and Naughty Bullet, which were regarded as the main force by Marzishi before, and were very powerful at first glance, the third Pokémon looked very weak at first glance, both in terms of form and momentum. My third Pokémon, Magnemite. Marzishi had a smile on his face, saying, my other main Pokémon lost their ability to fight in battles with other trainers, leaving only this newly captured Magnemite. You took advantage of me. I'd be foolish to trust you. Luo Yuan complained in his heart. Do you think I'm a fish? Only 7 seconds of memory, or was the tense atmosphere just now fake? However, Luo Yuan knew in his heart that Zishi should have known that he was not his opponent and was ready to deal with the third game. He was not surprised at this. Marzishi had been a gym trainer for so many years, and it was too unreasonable to let his main Pokémon die when he knew he couldn't win. Although he was disdainful of Marzish's cowardly behavior, rationally speaking, Marzish's choice was correct. Luo Yuan still used Steelix as his third Pokémon. Although Magnemite also had the advantage of being small and had the Steel attribute, it was directly shocked by Steelix's Steel Tail. In the end, it didn't last a single encounter and was directly ended by Steelix. Steelback wins again. Luo Yuan won all 3 games in this gym challenge. The challenge was successful. The referee announced the result of the game. Congratulations, you won this challenge with your strength. Marzishi took back Magneto and said with a fake smile, Master Marzishi is also very good. I'm ashamed of your understanding of electrical Pokémon. Luo Yuan also said politely in a tone that even he felt was fake. The two looked at each other. Finally, Marzishi threw Luo Yuan an orange sun-shaped badge. Luo Yuan took the badge and pinned it next to the blue badge and then seemed to suddenly remember something. By the way, Master Mazishi, Miss Joy from the Pokémon Center, asked me to tell you that I hope you can restrain yourself when fighting against the challenging Pokémon trainers and try not to cause too much damage. The Pokémon Center is running out of manpower. I know, I don't have any Pokémon that can fight now. Tell Joy that the situation she is worried about will not happen again. Mazishi waved his hand impatiently. He just wanted to get rid of Luo Yuan quickly. Luo Yuan was not angry either. He rubbed his temples with his fingers and finally glanced at the staff of the Vermilion Gym again, and then he left the Vermilion Gym. The trainer who had just entered the door to challenge but found that he had run in vain was left in the wind. What did he hear just now? All of Mazishi's Pokémon lost their combat capabilities. Didn't he run in vain? After leaving the Vermilion Gym, Luo Yuan did not immediately go to the Pokémon Center like ordinary trainers or go somewhere to celebrate his winning another badge. Instead, he took out a map of Vermilion City from his pocket, gestured for a while, and walked in one direction. 3 minutes later, Luo Yuan squatted in a bush not far from the Vermilion Gym. It should be here, right, Steelix? Luo Yuan took out the Pokémon Ball and asked the Steelix in the ball. The Pokémon Ball shook. Okay, that's right. Luo Yuan released the Leaf Elf. Leaf Elf, use Leaf Blade on the ground. Migu. More than 10 leaves shot towards the ground. With a sound of loose soil and rocks, the ground suddenly sank, revealing a dark hole. As for why there is a hole here, it is naturally related to Steelix. Ever since he knew that the Vermilion Gym had a secret, Luo Yuan had been thinking about how to investigate. It was impossible to directly question it openly, because that was something only a fool would do. As the official gym trainer of the Alliance, even the Heavenly King could not question Mazishi without the official documents of the Alliance or clear evidence. Luo Yuan did not think he was better than the Heavenly King. He could only sneak in to investigate secretly, but the usual way of sneaking in through the window was too easy to be discovered. So during the battle between Steelix and Raichu, Luo Yuan had an idea. On the surface, he let Steelix use digging holes and secretly dug a passage connecting the inside and outside of the Vermilion Gym underground. It was convenient for him to sneak into the Vermilion Gym again. Release Bulbasaur and let Bulbasaur guard the hole. Luo Yuan jumped into the hole. I want to see what the secret of the Dead Leaf Gym is. Taking back the Leaf Pokémon and releasing Ghastly, who was more suitable for stealth operations, Luo Yuan followed the tunnel dug by Steelix and sneaked into the Dead Leaf Gym again from underground. Chapter 74 Infiltration. The tunnel was very dark and without light. Normal people would have difficulty walking in such an environment and would be terrified. But for Luo Yuan, who had superpowers, and Ghastly, who liked dark environments, the environment here was not much different from the outside world. We are here. After walking underground for about 4 or 5 minutes, Luo Yuan's telekinesis detected that the exit was in front of him. The exit was located on the battlefield, where the previous battle took place. Luo Yuan carefully released his telekinesis to detect that there were not many people above. Only 2 guys dressed as gym staff were talking. It's so unlucky. Why are we sent to clean up the battlefield? A hoarse voice said. Okay, stop complaining. Boss Mazishi has ordered something. If you don't do it, do you still want to stay in Team Rocket in the future? Another voice said. In just a few words, the amount of information revealed was huge. Mazishi, Team Rocket? Is Mazishi really a member of Team Rocket? Luo Yuan was shocked. He felt that he had really discovered something incredible. Although he had previously speculated that Mazishi was involved with Team Rocket, it was just a guess, mostly because of the influence of the Pokémon special comics he had read before crossing over. In the special, in addition to Sakaki, the trainer of the Tokiwa Gym, Mazishi of the Vermilion Gym, Nancy of the Golden Gym, and Aju of the Crimson Gym were all members of Team Rocket, and Zyabo of the Red Lotus Gym was even involved in the Mutuo making plan. But he didn't expect that Mazishi was actually a member of Team Rocket. Could it be that the world I crossed over to was not the Pokémon anime, but the world of the anime mixed special? Speculating in his heart, Luo Yuan continued to listen. Hey, you said that Luo Yuan is really amazing, defeating so many members of our Team Rocket in succession. The hoarse voice from before spoke again. It's really amazing. The intelligence sent down from above shows how terrible this guy is. Not to mention the big Steelix before, there is actually a Metagross. That's a quasi-god. The voice was full of envy. So what if he's a quasi-god? The horse voice snorted sourly. Even if there is a quasi-god, so what? He's finished this time. Huh. Did you hear any news? My cousin is in the special operations team in Tokyo City. He told me, when I chatted with him before, that he attaches great importance to the operation in Vermilion City this time. Then what does this have to do with Luo Yuan? How can it have nothing to do with Luo Yuan? I heard that this time Boss Sakaki seems to have sent senior cadres to take action. Senior cadres? That's right, Boss Sakaki is going out in person. I guess he can't stand Luo Yuan, the guy who has repeatedly sabotaged our operations, so he decided to send senior cadres. The owner of the horse voice obviously admired Sakaki very much, and I heard that there is more than one senior cadre. This time, Luo Yuan is definitely doomed. It seems that Luo Yuan is really finished now. It's better if he finishes quickly. If it weren't for him, Boss Mazishi wouldn't be so angry, and we wouldn't have to do such a thing. The horse voice was full of malice. He blamed Luo Yuan for the reason why he was sent to clean the venue. The following conversation was meaningless. The two discussed the recent decline in welfare benefits of the Rocket Team's Vermilion branch, and the crackdown by the Alliance a while ago, without mentioning the specific content of the so-called action. The voice gradually faded away. Luo Yuan frowned underground. Does the Rocket Team's action in Vermilion City refer to the Saint Anne? When Vermilion City was mentioned, the first thing he thought of was the sunken Saint Anne. In his impression, there was no other major event in Vermilion City except this one. But they revealed that the Rocket Team would send senior cadres. Luo Yuan didn't expect that he was on Sakaki's blacklist. In order to deal with him, several senior cadres were specially sent. Although it might be more likely that he would be killed by picking hay while carrying out the mission, Luo Yuan did not dare to be careless. Don't think that he usually deals with the middle level cadres of the Rocket Team as easily as killing chickens. But the senior cadres of the Rocket Team are definitely not that easy to deal with. The 4 generals and the 3 beast warriors are all very powerful in the Alliance. None of them is easy to deal with, especially since there are more than one senior cadres. Even if the king comes out, he must be treated seriously. What's more, he will have to pay the price with blood if he is not careful. Luo Yuan suddenly felt a headache, but at the same time, he felt very lucky. If he hadn't suddenly decided to use Steelix to dig a tunnel to sneak into the Vermilion gym, even if he could find out the conspiracy of Team Rocket, he would not be able to know that Team Rocket sent multiple senior cadres to come. We have to think of a way. We can't just sit there and wait for death. Luo Yuan wondered whether he should contact the Alliance after he went out. After all, Team Rocket's actions are mainly aimed at the Alliance, and he can't just do it alone. Thinking of this, Luo Yuan temporarily put his mind at ease. But he still had to continue investigating. After all, to convince the Alliance to send a king, it would definitely not work, just based on his own words. There must be real evidence. After using telekinesis to confirm that there was no one above, Luo Yuan used telekinesis to control his body to float up, and then jumped out. Chapter 75 Team Rocket's meeting. The battlefield of the Vermilion Leaf Gym was silent. The 2 Rocket Team members who were called to clean up earlier went to get the filling tools, so Luo Yuan's infiltration did not alarm anyone. Then Luo Yuan picked a lone Rocket Team member who was about the same size as him, and followed him all the way to the toilet cubicle. He asked Ghastly to hypnotize him directly to ensure that this guy would not wake up for a few hours. Luo Yuan pressed the button on his temple, disguised himself as the Rocket Team member with a mask, put on the clothes taken from the unlucky guy, and slightly fixed his hair. Luo Yuan became 90% similar to the guy he knocked out. After looking in the mirror and confirming that the disguise was in place, Luo Yuan swaggered into the interior of the Vermilion Leaf Gym. It's a bit quiet. Walking in the corridor, Luo Yuan muttered to himself. The scene in front of him was different from what he imagined. He thought that there were so many people in the Vermilion Leaf Gym that he would meet a lot, but he didn't expect that there were only a few people walking in the corridor. There were only a few people he met, and he didn't know where the staff who had been beaten before had gone. And perhaps because of the atmosphere within the rockets, these guys didn't even say hello when they passed by, looking indifferent. This is better, it just saves me a lot of trouble. Luo Yuan was happy to see this situation, and was very satisfied. This is what he wanted now. If he could collect the evidence of the Rockets' crimes and leave without being discovered by the Rockets, it would be even better. But things obviously won't go as smoothly as he imagined. Moving forward, just when Luo Yuan was looking for the location of Ma Zix's office, a person suddenly came towards him. After seeing Luo Yuan, he showed surprise on his face. Now, didn't Boss Ma Zixi ask you to go to the meeting room to arrange the task? Why are you still hanging around here? The person looked very familiar with the person Luo Yuan pretended to be. When Luo Yuan heard someone calling him, he thought it was not good. He was recognized. Although he looked very similar, he didn't have a voice changer, so his voice couldn't be imitated. His mind was racing. Should he do it directly? Soon he shook his head again. Taking action now would be the worst option, because if he did that, his infiltration would be exposed to the Rockets. If he didn't get any evidence, he would alert the enemy. It would be difficult to get intelligence from the Rockets. In a flash, Luo Yuan suddenly remembered that the Rockets had diarrhea in the toilet before, so he had an idea and coughed twice. He said in a weak and hoarse voice, I have a stomach ache and have been in the toilet just now. In order to be realistic, Luo Yuan also used telekinesis to control the blood supply to his face, making his lips look like he had diarrhea and dehydration. Ha ha ha. Seeing Luo Yuan's appearance, the Rockets on the opposite side laughed with a gloating expression on his face. I said, the barbecue last night was not cooked, but you insisted on eating it. Now you are fine, right? Thanks to the perfect camouflage effect of the mask and Luo Yuan's nearly perfect reason, he did not doubt Luo Yuan at all. Stop laughing, give me a hand. Luo Yuan said in a tone of anger out of shame, while his body hunched, as if he was really exhausted. Okay, now, remember to treat me to a meal next time. As he spoke, the rocket team opposite helped Luo Yuan and walked towards the meeting room. Ma Zixi sat at the first seat in the meeting room of the Vermilion Leaf Gym. His face was completely different from the cheerful expression he had shown in the gym before. He frowned and looked at the empty seat in the meeting room with a gloomy face, his face full of unhappiness. This look made the subordinates below very uneasy, fearing that the boss would take out his anger. Where did it now go? Everyone shouted in their hearts. Just as everyone thought in their hearts, Ma Zixi was very angry now. He called all the rocket team captains of the Vermilion Leaf Gym together and arranged tasks, but now there was one person missing. It would be strange if Ma Zixi was not angry. He was in a very bad mood now. It was okay to lose to Luo Yuan. After all, he had not used his real trump card yet. But now he called his subordinates to arrange tasks, and someone dared to be late. Could it be that they dared to disobey him because he lost a battle? Ma Zixi, who was in a very bad mood, couldn't help thinking gloomily. The more he thought about it, the more unhappy he became. Ma Zixi pointed at one of his men and said, "You, go and call that bastard in now over to me." The rocket team member who was called nodded immediately. Just as he was about to get up, there was a knock on the door and Luo Yuan, who was supported, walked in. "Asshole, where did you go just now?" Ma Zixi cursed as soon as he saw Luo Yuan. He completely vented his negative emotions on Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan's heart tightened. The critical moment had come. Whether he could get information about the rocket team depended on whether he could deceive Ma Zixi. Just when he was about to explain with his weak and hoarse voice, the rocket team member who was supporting him spoke up. "Boss Ma Zixi, Inao had a stomachache last night and just went to the toilet." Luo Yuan didn't expect that someone would help him explain. What a good man. Luo Yuan sighed in his heart, and he felt more and more that he was a lucky guy. Even in this situation, there were people helping him. If he spoke up himself, although he had excellent acting skills, there was still a certain possibility that Ma Zixi would see through him. Ma Zixi, who was about to punish Luo Yuan, raised his eyebrows, looked at Luo Yuan's pale face and exhausted expression. He snorted coldly and did not pursue the matter anymore. "HMPH, leave him here, you get out." After saying that, He presided over the meeting without even looking at Luo Yuan. The Rockets team member who supported Luo Yuan gave Luo Yuan a look of wishing him the best of luck and fled out of the meeting room. Seeing that all the irrelevant people had left, Masashi glanced at everyone present. Now, the meeting begins. The content of this meeting is very important, and everyone must keep it confidential to me. Not a single word can be leaked. Do you understand? Understood. Luo Yuan's hoarse and weak voice was mixed in with the response. Masashi ignored Luo Yuan and went straight to the point. I just received an order from Boss Sakaki. In 3 days, we will conduct a kidnapping operation against the luxury cruise ship Saint Anne. I called you here this time to arrange the combat deployment of this operation. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.